Hello everyone! If you are going to follow just one sim racing championship this year, make it this one. GPVWC Superleague is back after such a long time. We're here at the Melbourne Grand Prix circuit for the first round of 16 that we have in 2025. My name is Caitlin Penny and I'm delighted to be joined by, first of all, the broadcast director, Remco Zeeuw, as you can see on your screen. But of course, my co-commentator is Ed Hunter. Hello Ed, how are you?
Oh, good, thanks. It's been a long off-season, and it's a big privilege to get to commentate on Super League full-time this season with you, Caitlin, of course, because I filled in for a couple of rounds last season and the season before that, but sort of it's good to finally have this be the full-time thing that I I focus on, I guess, and it's the top-level Grand Prix Virtual Championship. It's got all the best teams and drivers, and yeah, there's so many unknowns going into this season that it's going to be really fascinating to see how these first couple of rounds play out, because there's a lot of talk going on, but now we're finally, as they say, let me try to think of the censored version of this. When the flag drops, the talking stops, essentially, and we'll see what the reality is. But yeah, I think round one in Melbourne, really interesting track, of course. Quite high-speed street circuit with the chicane taken out in the last couple of years. It's much higher speed than it used to be. So strategically, it could be an interesting one, but I think it's going to be qualifying that's the real key here in terms of starting high up the grid. Gives you the best chance of finishing high up as well. But we could see a few people doing something interesting on the strategy as well.
And of course, qualifying is about to get underway. So if you want to follow along on the live timing, there will be live timing on raceview.com. That's race-view.com, and you'll be able to follow along on exactly what is going on there. In terms of headlines coming into this race, we covered the drivers and teams that you should look out for in our pre-season test, and we'll go over that very shortly. We'll probably talk about that more in the warm-up session between qualifying and the race. But in terms of the other categories that you might have seen, Junior Lopez won the first race in Formula Sprint 2, the first race of GPWC's career ladder in 2025, and Domenico Scarpelli won the second race, but Junior Lopez tops the FS2 standings. In FS1, Matthias Majka won the first race, but Pavel Andrzejewski leads that championship with a second place followed by a first place finish in race 2. Then in Superlights, Tom Savelli took the first race of the year, beating out previous Super League champion Philip Puschke with a one-stop strategy. And there was a little bit of chaos up and down the field. It was a quite intriguing Super Lights race, actually. The commentators went insane. I hope they've still got their voices on them after all of that. And that should be a pretty fun broadcast to watch back if you haven't done already. But anyway, we're just preparing for the start of the qualifying session now. You can see the timer ticking down. When that says 15, well, there seems to already be a green light on, so I guess the session's already started, but it's supposed to start with 15 minutes to go, and off goes Alex Laho on his out lap, the first ever qualifying lap in Super League for the Road to Formula Racing team, Ed.
Yeah, I think Lou was waiting just until it was exactly 15 minutes to go until he let the pit exit there, so just making sure he can't get in trouble. But yeah, good to see that resplendent purple R2F car circulating around Albert Park. And this is, of course, the scene of Lehu having that breakthrough first victory in Super Lights here that led to that amazing title campaign where he won 7 races in Super Lights last season. And he has a top 4 already in Super League, courtesy of his performance for HRT, wasn't it, in Saudi Arabia last year. So yeah, looking to make an impression, looking to make a statement. And yeah, we got I think at least 3 or 4 very good French drivers in a Super League this season, and Lehu, probably the youngest, the most exciting of all of them as the reigning Super Lights champion. And me and him, as you can imagine from the interviews we've had in the past, seem to get on quite well. So I wonder if we're going to be interviewing him at the end of this one, maybe as a podium finisher for the first time in Super League. It's quite the step up, of course, and there's no guarantees, and Albert Park may well throw a few spanners in the works. But yeah, Lehu He's grown so much as a driver these last couple of seasons. He should have all the tools needed in his arsenal to do really, really well here. And Road to Formula, very much resting their hopes upon him and his teammate Thomas Vack this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do, not just on this lap, but for the whole season. But we're going to watch this lap for the time being as Alex Laho takes us around the Albert Park circuit. By the way, if you're wondering why you can't see any more cars, that probably means you didn't watch the last season of Super League. So where have you been? I'm joking, of course. Welcome if you are new to this. But yes, also it's because we are in private qualifying. So all of the drivers are out on track at the same time, but they can't interact with each other, and that makes it fair because obviously you can't benefit from each other's slipstream, and you also can't hold each other up or crash into each other or anything along those lines. So this is the fairest part of the race weekend, and it's all down to what the drivers can do. You've seen the first part of the lap. Now we're into the latter part of the lap. That's the weight chicane, the real accident black spot of the track that Alex Laho has just rocketed his way through, and then you break into this 90-degree right-hander that used to be a little bit more open. He's got a bit of curve there. You can see the tail twitching, and it's not very grippy out there, so he's lucky to have got away with that. Now he goes through the last two corners of the lap out of the final turn, and we're about to see what his reference lap time is across the line, and Alex Laho goes third. Not bad for a start. 1:15.280. Currently top of the times is our reigning champion, Jan Grankvist of Super Venturi, who told me earlier that he was very excited for this and he knew he'd be near the front of the field, but he was also just as excited to see what everyone else was cooking up. So Ed, what do you think our reigning champion can do today and beyond?
Well, I've always received Wopke Hoekstra, not the most triumphant return for the Green Stripes driver as the German gets back into the Green Stripes garage. I think they need to put a whole front end on that car. There we go. They just slapped it on like bits of Lego right as he was leaving the garage there. So you certainly can't fault the Green Stripes mechanics for the speedy repairs there. Christoph Lichtenstein, I think, breathing a bit of a sigh of relief there. But yeah, going back to Jan Grankvist, of course, the reigning champion took 5 fantastic victories last season in all sorts of different conditions, and along with a number of other podiums as well. And in terms of raw speed, Grankvist, he always had that raw speed, didn't he? We saw it in previous seasons as well. But the luck, the first win never quite came together until Saudi Arabia last season. And then he went on that string of 3 wins in a row, was it? Saudi, Japan, and China as well. Before he also won at Silverstone with that tyre preservation one-stop strategy, and then Hockenheim in that crazy dry, wet, dried out a bit, and then rained even harder race, where Grankvist always seemed to be able to fight his way through, even if other people were able to undercut him on the sort of tyre changes. He was always able to get the best out in whatever conditions he was in. So, of course, he won the title with that just about in Singapore, 2 races early from Mark Schluter and Tom Stevens, who were his main title rivals, it must be said. But yeah, I think towards the end of the season, they all sort of started to catch up, didn't they? So it's certainly not going to be 2024 Part 2 necessarily for Jan Grankvist in terms of just repeating that amazing form he had at the start of the season. But if he can keep qualifying well and keep them at bay, then he's got a good chance of being in the mix come the final 3 rounds. But I don't quite expect Jan to run away with it like he did in those early phases last season. I think these guys, they're a little bit too smart. They've learned too much over the off-season to be caught out so easily. Speaking of which, here's Mark Schluter on his first flying lap. Not a great first sector though, but he's still got 9 minutes to improve in that edgy sports car. And Schluter, of course, winner in the last race of 2024 in Sao Paulo and Interlagos, looking to pick up where he left off, of course. So he was very, very strong, taking 3 wins last season. And I think he's definitely going to be one of the ones we'll watch out for in 2025.
Now, one thing, as we see Alessandro Maggio here in the brand new Valet Esports car. This car, quite a beautiful machine, actually. I do like that livery and the way that it kind of fades from black into gold and then back to black again. And through the first couple of corners goes Alessandro Maggio, right near the front of the field, you'll notice. Now, that's pretty funny, because if you've seen our pre-season preview podcast that I recorded with Toby Davis and Carlos Martin, we were having a big debate over quite how good Alessandro Maggio would be. I said that I thought he would stand a genuine chance of winning his first Super League race this year, and potentially even his first Super League race, or at least the first one of the year. and they all laughed at me. But Maggio currently second in the time, so who's laughing now? But of course, this is still very early in the race weekend. I will say though, even though Maggio is relatively Super League, this is not his first Super League race. And the reason that I bring that up is because not a single driver, by my reckoning, out of every driver in the grid, is making their absolute Super League debut today, which is almost miraculous for the first race of the season, to be honest. You normally see so many rookies popping in, but this year we have an experienced grid of drivers who have all dipped their toes in the water at least. The driver with the least experience, if you're wondering, is Sven Schubert. He has done just one Grand Prix, which was the 2017 Monaco Grand Prix, and Alessandro Maggio tops the times. 1:15.177. Watch this space, remember this name. Alessandro Maggio is setting the early pace. Currently Maggio at the top, Granqvist second, then Frelick, Stevens and Winnick the top 5. And then Machete, Lahu, Williams, Fournier and Tyen, but we will cover those as the session continues. I tell you what, one thing that we do sometimes see in Super League is teams winning their first race. Last year, TOP Esports did it with Owen McGorgy. Back in 2018, Epic Racing did that with Jeffrey Fournier, who of course is here and currently running in 9th place in this session. You were talking about exciting Frenchmen earlier on, Ed. It's worth noting, the only former winner of this Grand Prix currently racing on this grid is Jeffrey Fournier.
Yep, that's very, very true. And Jeffrey, of course, never shy of making a very spectacular overtake or two. He made one or two at this race last season as well. Dylan Fisher doing a 360-degree spin. But the AKA Hero driver, that was a hero moment right there, just absolutely saving that. But yeah, Dylan Fisher, he's certainly deciding he's keeping up his spectacular form from last season, isn't he? He always loves to, well, maybe it's a bit unfair that he always loves being the center of the attention, but something exciting always seems to be happening either to or from Dylan Fisher, and that certainly seems to still be the case, although 28th on the board at the moment. I think you want to get a little bit closer to the top 10 if possible. But yeah, going back to Fournier and Maggio. Maggio, do you see the last couple of sectors? Maggio was carrying so much speed through 14, Stewart, 15, Prost, and then the final corner, 16. He was just almost breaking the laws of physics, how much speed. I didn't know it was possible for a Super League car to just hold that much speed through those corners, but now Jarl Tyen is the one setting the timing screen alight in that first sector. Let's see if he can hold it on through the final 2 corners now. Comes the THR driver, neat, tidy, steady. This could be very, very close to the front 2 rows of the grid in about sort of Tom Stevens, Simon Frelick territory. Towards the line he comes. It's 5th fastest, just behind his teammate Tom Stevens then. So that's good news for THR. They've got 2 cars up the front, but Frelick is going even faster in his first appearance in Super League since Singapore last season.
Yeah, a lot of people talking in the chat about Ruben Machete as well, and he's just put his car 7th in the times, was briefly 6th, but then of course was demoted by Jarl Tyen just now. This looks decent from Frelick. Well, it looked decent in the first sector, but you can see by the second sector time that he's a long way down, and so he comes into the pits, but that's okay. You can see the time. There is easily enough time to get out there and set another lap. This is looking quick from Alex Lahoe in the Road to Formula racing car. He goes 3rd, so he puts his car provisionally on the second row of the grid with a time. It was quicker than the leader's time, quicker than Maggio in the first and second sectors. It was just the 3rd sector where he was slower. The 3rd sector, traditionally the highest downforce sector of the circuit, so it may just be that he has a car with a bit more front end speed. Here's Carlos Martin here, currently P12, but as you can see, a pretty good first and second sector. Not a personal best second sector, but still good enough to set the timing screen ablaze. Here he comes into the last couple of corners of the lap. A little bit understeery, he missed the apex, and into the pits he goes, but that might have been his plan all along. You do sometimes see drivers pushing on their way back to the pits, just so they get more time to go back out there and set another lap. There's Maciej Winnick clearly not pushing. He was not very fast out of that chicane there, unless I'm very much mistaken.
Might have made a mistake, yeah, because that looked like he was on a flying lap and then going very, very slowly out of the weight chicane, which is either he's spun it or he's had to slow right down. As now Mark Schluter only able to get up into the top 15, but yeah, Schluter's one of the ones that really needed to get a clean lap on the board there. So he just displaces Jukka-Pekka Lalu in that second Super Venturi. But yeah, Maggio still with that 10th advantage, which really shows you the amazing job he did in the final sector is making a big difference here.
Sorry, I just knocked something off my desk there. I hope you didn't hear that loud crash. No. I did the same.
I heard you going oof.
Yeah, I heard the same. I did the same thing while recording my lines for the season preview. I should say we weren't quite able to get the season preview to you at the start of this broadcast, but that will still be coming on the GPVWC YouTube channel, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Into the pits comes Jan Grangfist to set up for his final run. You'll notice that he didn't quite make it back to his pit box, but that is okay. The rules just say that you have to be in the pit lane speed area, so past the pit lane speed starting line, in order to escape back to your box, and then you're able to go out again and start another flying lap. Here's Shimon Frelich in the middle sector, TOP Esports. Carlos Martin was singing his praises in both the preseason test and then the predictions podcast that we recorded. He says he's going to be faster than Martin at every single session of the year. That's what Carlos Martin said anyway, and we know how quick Carlos Martin is, winning in Canada last year, so who's to say that Shimon Frelich won't be a generational talent. Into the pits comes Jeffrey Fournier, and he'll be pushed for time to get out there and set another lap, but he's just about got time to do it, and it's worth noting that that's why we sometimes see drivers crawling back to the pits on 3 wheels or whatever, because you have to get back to the pits in order to go out onto the track and set another lap. Only 2 cars yet to set a time, one of those being Dylan Fisher and the other being the second Spark Racing car, who is not on the server right now. So only 29 cars, where we're expecting it would be Loic Mounier, who we haven't seen yet today, and I'm not sure why that is. So looks like we haven't quite got a full house, but still 29 cars, a very, very strong field, certainly enough for a race. And Ed, with less than 1 minute and 15 remaining on the clock, that means there's not any time for drivers currently in the pit lane to get out and set another lap. And for the drivers out on track, it's now or never.
Yep, so a couple of people, I think, might they've decided they can't go much faster, but Matthew Williams has found a little bit more speed in the Adonis, has gone it up into P7, and Matthew Williams, of course, was on the second row here in qualifying last year, finished 5th in that first race of the season, was very, very good in the Zortax machine before sort of the upgrade. He sort of got left behind with all the upgrades that happened over the year. But Williams, 2021 Superleague Champion, is always see Grangfist absolutely all just about avoiding going in the gravel there. That's the speed he's carrying through turn 6 then, as now he goes through Clark, the high speed 9-10 used to be a much slower chicane until they reprofiled it. Now into weight chicane. He's 87 thousandths down on Maggio in that middle sector, so it's all going to come down to this final run, Caitlin, then, as we go into the final 10 seconds. All or nothing for the reigning champion.
Through the final few corners, this will be his last chance. His second sector time was not great. It was not a personal best. It was still decent, though. It was still quick enough that he might improve on his time. Out of the final corner, will he improve by the 1/10 of a second and change that he needs to take pole position? The reigning champion comes to the line and stays P2, but he did improve, so he gets slightly closer to Maggio, just not quite close enough. Who can still set a lap? Frelich, I think, is still on a lap, but he's right at the start of it. Tom Stevens is out there. Here is Shimon Frelich. Oh, and it's a good first sector. That is a very good first sector. It's equal with what Alessandro Maggio did on his first lap. Basically dead even, according to my timing screen. Up to the weight chicane he goes. This is where you make or break your lap. Usually break, to be honest, knowing the weight chicane. And his second sector was about 1/10 down on Maggio's time.
Fournier's on a decent lap.
This is still, you mean who do you mean? Oh, Fournier, sorry.
I do. Well, he was.
He's done it. Let's go back to Frelich. This is, Frelich's losing it. Okay, that'll be that lap over, I'm afraid. That looked like too big of a lose to still gain. And I think that solidifies Alessandro Maggio as being on pole position. We'll get you that as it comes, because we've still got drivers out there, but I'm not sure they're on laps. Fournier is Well, there's Sven Schubert coming into the pits, and that's your lot. They're all in the pit lane. So Alessandro Maggio in Valet Esports' first race in GPVWC Super League takes pole position. And I tell you what, I'm gonna keep the comments to myself about I told you so and all of that. But Carlos Martin and Toby Davis, I hope you are watching this. Alessandro Maggio takes pole position by 0.07 of a second ahead of Jan Grankvist. Then Alex Laho is third, a fantastic performance on Road to Formula Racing's debut as well. The new teams are showing up. Shimon Frelich is fourth on the grid, so that's the second row of the grid. Then Tom Stevens, last year's runner-up, lines up alongside his THR teammate Jarl Tyen. Matthew Williams is P7, then it's Maciej Winnick, former winner of 3 Grand Prix in Super League. Reuven Machedi is 9th place in the second Valet Esports car, and then Robin Pansar, one-time winner of the Belgian Grand Prix, is 10th. We go to our second tile. You can see Jeffrey Fournier 11th. He won this race in 2018. Sven Schubert is 12th. He, of course, in just his second Super League start. Then it's Zoltz Schukes. Pretty good qualifying performance from Stax there. Carlos Martin, P14. Then Riot Kilk, who is stepping in that second Red Archer Virtual Racing Team car today. We're not sure yet whether or not he will do the full season. Tomasz Vok is P16, one-time winner of the Japanese Grand Prix. Then it's Mark Schluter, last year's third-place driver in the championship. Jakub Lalu is 18th in the second Super Venturi. Then it's Dylan Fisher, who we saw having that big spin. Daniel Brewer, two-time race winner in his own right, in 20th position. Stefan Rohr, our 2021 champion, is making his Holland Racing Team return, but only qualifies 21st. That is actually quite surprising for the Dutchman. Chris Shepard is 22nd, then it's István Singal, Pascal Pollens, Stein Handgraf, Heigo Poom, Vincent Gutt, Matt Richards, and Wopke Hoekstra rounding out the grid. 1.36 seconds separates the entire field. That is how close Super League is. This is brilliant stuff. And we've had an update from Loic Mounier as to why he's not on the grid. He says, "Hi, my internet exploded." I don't mean to laugh. I'm not laughing at the fact that your internet exploded. I'm just laughing at the way you worded that. That was very eloquently put, Loic. But I am very upset to hear that, and I'm sorry that you won't be able to make it for the first Super League race of the year, because that means it's our only little dark splodge on our clean sweep of drivers turning up for the first race of the year. So unfortunately, 29 drivers rather than the 30 are here today, Ed, but what a field of drivers it is.
Yep, it certainly is an interesting turn up for the books there, and of course the big story has got to be that pole position for Maggio, and I have to say I was absolutely right with you, Caitlin, even though I wasn't in that pre-season podcast, because I'd seen Maggio's season in FSR Pro last year, where he was like 40 points down after the first couple of rounds and then just went on this winning streak and then missed out by a single point in the end. Him and his teammate Sergio Fletcher, who we're hopefully going to see a bit later in the season. Well, I'm sure Reuven Machedi wouldn't mind if Sergio can't make a few more races in the future, because Reuven, at relatively short notice, qualifying P9, I think is also pretty impressive as well. And of course, he's a German driver that you might know from Super League in the past, doing super light mostly this season. Is it with Fusion that Reuven is? No, that's Remco's team, isn't it? It's one of the other teams that Reuven drives. Optimal. Oh, it's Optimal. Yeah, of course, that would be the other one then. that Reuven is doing his super light campaign with. But yeah, it's always good to see him back in Super League, because last season he was with Green Stripes and he was supposed to do the full season with them, and he had a lot of technical issues near the start of the season, so he basically had to bail on them after the first couple of rounds. And so he's another driver that we basically only saw in FSR, where he did pretty solidly also for Optimal as well, it must be said. So yeah, I'm excited to see what Reuven and Maggio can do in those valet machines, and I'm sure Sergio, if he's watching, will certainly be cheering them on. But yeah, as we say about Loic Mounier, a big loss, because he's another driver that's one in every tier, it seems, in GPV and I think was really excited for his full season debut. We should see him at round 2 in Turkey, but yeah, it looks unlikely that they're going to be able to reconstruct that exploded internet modem in time for the race. So it should be just the one Spark Racing car of Vincent Gutt then that's probably got a pretty tough job to do from third last on, near the back of the grid, of course. If you want an interesting statistic, Caitlin, there is an interesting one for Matt Richards, the Welshman, in the second Fraser Tartan car. So this is his first Super League race in 11 years, if I'm not mistaken, since 2014. So I believe if he scores a point today, he will break the record for the longest gap in between points in Super League, as Reuven has a massive moment at turn 6 before collecting it up there.
You say that, but didn't Lauren Keersmakers have like 12 years between his points?
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me, because Lauren for a while held the same record in FSR at World Championship as well. So it was 10
Lauren
years.
Keersmakers holds the record for the longest time between wins. He won a race in 2007 and then didn't win again until 2019. Obviously, a lot of that was because he was not racing in that time, but he does hold that record, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same with points.
Second highest then. I still want to big up Matt Richards a little bit, because it's always good to see someone that used to compete in Super League so long ago come back. And of course, Sven Schubert, his teammate, 12th on the grid. So that's great news for Fraser Tartan and Toby Davis. That obviously they're going to get better and better as the season goes on, because there's a lot of catching up to do, to put it mildly. But it was good to see Fraser Tartan sort of take the risk on them and sort of get them back into the fold and sort of train them up to be ready for the season, because I think it's very easy to say, oh well, let's just go for someone experienced, but the teams that take risks, that go for drivers that don't necessarily have glittering CVs, can always prove themselves. And I think Maggio, case in point, of course, has never done a full Super League season before, is now absolutely showing his worth. Alex Laho as well, in third on the grid as well. Let's not forget about him and Maggio sort of resuming their rivalry from last season as well. They always seem to be trading pole positions between each other, but more often than not, it was Lahu, of course, that finished ahead. And there was that memorable battle in the Super Lights race at Monza last season, where I think they traded positions like 5 or 6 times during that race at the very least. It was a brilliant fight. So the two Alexes, they know each other pretty well. I think the danger ones are going to be our reigning champions, aren't they? THR in sort of 5th and 6th behind those top 4. Be interested to see what Simon Frelich decides to do on his debut, because of course he's in the middle of the sort of top 3, the really, really quick guys, and then THR, who are more the sort of Alain Prosts that are biding their time.
I've just noticed something. I have just got up the GPVWC website, and I've checked outstanding penalties, and unless there is a mistake on the system, Alessandro Maggio has a 5-slot grid demotion from his last Super League race.
Oh, that would be... which was the last one that he did? Was it Japan last season?
Now, the reason I haven't checked this before...
No, it was China, wasn't it? It was China, where he came 9th, wasn't it?
Yes. Now, I didn't know this. I'm afraid no one really expected him to be on pole position, so that has rather come out of the blue, I'm afraid. And Krista's in the YouTube chat says it's true about the grid drop as well. So Maggio will still start from 6th on the grid. That is still a very strong position, but that puts reigning champion Jan Grankvist on pole position. So I'm sorry to everyone that I have upset by suddenly dropping that news on you. Alessandro Maggio has a 5-slot grid demotion. Also, Sergio Fletcher was supposed to be here today. I've noticed he was actually in the YouTube chat earlier. We were told he was going to be racing for Valley Esports, but you can see that Reuven Machedi has filled in rather dutifully. Sergio Fletcher has a back-of-the-grid demotion waiting for him when he returns to Super League. But yes, Alessandro Maggio. So I don't remember what that penalty would in fact be for. I'll have to try to find that out, but...
It was something he did in Shanghai, wasn't it? There was certainly an incident here last year, wasn't there, where there was a crash with another driver when he was filling in for Epic, I think it was, and he ended up spinning off at the weight chicane into the wall and basically out of the race from like a 9th, I think, if memory serves correctly. So yeah, he certainly had his hard knocks and misfortune it's sort of Michael Schumacher Monaco 2012-esque, isn't it? Where he's done a really, really good performance today, but having that hanging over him, and it's really tough as well to start a new season and then have that still hanging over you. So it sort of makes you wish, in a sense, that Maggio had not done any of the Super League races that he did last season, because although you never know, maybe if he hadn't, he wouldn't have had the experience enough and the confidence maybe to get onto pole today. But that means he's going to start, I think, 6th instead of 1st, essentially. So basically, Grankvist, Lehoux, Frelick, Stevens, and Tyen, I think, will all gain a place on the starting grid then. And yeah, so Maggio, it's not the end of the world, but it is a little bit of a setback here, because qualifying can be quite crucial. And it really opens things up for Grankvist. But I think Lehoux and Frelick are still going to be massive, massive threats to Jan and to Super Venturi in terms of winning this race, because Lehoux, we know, has won here before. Frelick was a winning machine in FS1 last season, just could not stop winning, won like 10 or almost like 5 in a row at one point in the season, I think he did.
Yeah.
And, so I think Frelick is definitely very, very keen to win for TOP in Australia for the 2nd time after McGorgy won here last season as well. Frelick is sort of not the new McGorgy, because he's Simon Frelick, a very different kind of driver, but he's sort of definitely stepping up into that role in the team of being their lead driver. And yeah, for THR, now they've got the problem of, instead of Maggio being ahead of them and they can worry about their own race, THR have got to keep Maggio behind at the start here. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tyen sort of forms a protective shield for Stevens at the start here.
So Ed, since we've got less than a minute left in warm-up, it's probably about time to start looking forward to the race and talking about strategy. In the Super Lights race the other day, it was a one-stop strategy that won the race. I believe there were a few two-stop strategies throughout the field, but realistically, this is not a particularly high tyre wear circuit. I would be expecting two stops today, with the caveat that a one-stop is absolutely possible and someone could certainly make that work. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I remember the race we did last season, that Matthew Williams was in the mix for the podium, but he decided to do a second stop, I think, in the closing stages for soft tyres, and he couldn't make the time back up. So Carlos Martin beat him to 4th on that day, and I forget who finished. It was Stevens, wasn't it? Who basically used he made up a lot of places early on, used a good strategy to get onto the podium from, I think it was like 10th on the grid for Stevens. So yes, and we said at the time, if Stevens qualified a bit better, then he could have been in the mix for victory. And look, he had helped a little bit by the penalty for Maggio, but he has qualified effectively in the top 5, then now make it 4th on the grid. So yeah, I think Tom could definitely, and we keep saying it every season, that he's the favourite going in, he could be the one, but I think with Grankvist ahead, you've got to say the reigning champion is the favourite, but Stevens is definitely going to be in the mix very, very solidly. Somebody who's really got a tough job to do and might have to do a one-stop or alternate strategy from low down the grid is Mark Schluter, of course. They qualified outside the top 15, so even finishing in the points could be a bit tricky here for the AG Sports driver.
Yeah, it's also worth noting the top 10 drivers have to start on the compound of tyre they qualified on, so in this case soft tyres. Everyone else behind them gets free choice. So if you're 11th, that's a great position to start if you're going to take something slightly different, do something slightly different to the others, and try to benefit in that direction. We've seen races won like that in the past. Even back in the days where it used to be the top 15 that had to start on the same compound of tyre, the driver in 16th position would sometimes come out of the blue and achieve a shock result as a direct result of that. Also in terms of tyres, I've seen a lot of people in the YouTube chat commenting on Alessandro Maggio, saying that he uses up his tyres quite a lot, and that could be his Achilles heel today. I personally haven't seen that in the past, but smoke where there's fire, that could be an issue for Alessandro Maggio. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see if he's tightened that up over the off-season, and if indeed he can stick with the others, both in terms of strategy and pace. You can see here the penalty has been applied now, so it's confirmed Alessandro Maggio will start from 6th position on the grid, but we've seen in qualifying he has the potential to be the fastest out there, so we're just adding a little bit of a twist in the tail.
I think there was a comment in the chat from Mateus Biskazan saying, "Oh, hopefully Chris Williamson forgets and Maggio still gets to keep his pole." I think that was very, very wishful thinking from Maggio and his friends and all the Valley Esports supporters. But yeah, certainly I wouldn't rule him out just yet. And in terms of the tyre wear, I saw a lot of races in FSR last season where Maggio was able to keep soft tyres alive for much longer than he should have at tracks like Silverstone and was able to win as a result. So GPV tyre life, of course, is a different kettle of fish, though. So we saw that be a bit of a weakness in super lights at some of the races last season. But yeah, I think Maggio, he's just had such a constant rate of improvement as we see the formation lap begin that I don't think you can discount him. It's just making up ground past the THRs that's going to be the bigger issue, I think, for him in this first part of the race.
Indeed, so away we go on the first formation lap of the year, and as a result we're going to take another look at the starting grid. Jan Grankvist takes the championship lead by virtue of being the leader. I shouldn't say championship lead, I should say race lead. Alex Laho is second, Shimon Frelich is third, and then fourth place is Tom Stevens. Jarl Tyen, fifth place, the other THR. Then Alessandro Maggio, pole sitter, but dropped to sixth. Matthew Williams is seventh, then it's Maciej Winnick in eighth with that Dayglow rear wing. Ruben Machedi P9, then Robin Pansar P10, Jeffrey Fournier, former winner of this race, P11, and then Sven Schubert doing a good job on Fraser Tartan's racing. Fraser Tartan Racing in 12th. Then it's Zolt Schukes, Carlos Martin, Wright Kilk and Tomasz Voch. Road to Formula's debut as well, look out for the purple cars. P17 is Mark Schluter, third place in last year's championship, just 17th here today. Then Jukka-Pekka Lalu, Dylan Fisher and Daniel Brewer, who is P20. P21, Stefan Rohr, Chris Shepherd is P22, then it's Isfang Singal and Pascal Pollens. Not a great qualifying performance from Pollens, he's normally got a little bit more pace than that. P25, Stein Hangraf, P26, Heigo Poom, then Vincent Gutt in the Seoul Spark Racing Team car, and Matt Richards P28 on his return to Super League. Grid will be rounded out by the unfortunate Wopke Hoekstra, who was on 3 wheels in qualifying, briefly became Wonky Hoekstra. So towards the grid we go, 29 cars set to do battle for 58 laps of the Albert Park circuit in Melbourne. And then just quickly as we're lining up, I am so excited for this. Super League is back.
Yes, exactly. This is the moment we've all been waiting for, isn't it? And Jan Grankvist certainly is hoping to make it 2 titles in a row, but there's so many drivers that could beat him over the course of the season. Here's Maggio. He's certainly got a point to prove, isn't it? It's so unpredictable how this is all going to play out in terms of strategy lanes. The last few drivers, Willy Wonka Hoekstra just filling in the final slot on the grid, hoping to get the golden ticket that gets him up the field. But anyway, let's go for the start, Caitlin.
So you can see the lights, and when they all go out, we will be underway for the 2025 Super League season, which is underway now. A very slow start for Jarl Tyen. He gets away, but very slowly. Look at Shimon Frelich coming through from third place as well, but it's Jan Grankvist who leads. So Grankvist leads, Frelich second, Lahu is third, and there's Maggio making up a place already. Matthew Williams coming with him, so they're up to 5th and 6th positions. Maciej Winnick is in 7th, and it's Machedi Fournier. Where did Tyen drop to? He's 14th. What a terrible start for the second THR car. We'll have to get to the bottom of how that happened later on. Carlos Martin and Sven Schubert fighting further back as they all stream through. Looks to have been a relatively clean start as well, which is what you love to see in the opening lap of the season, especially at a track like this, which is so tight and twisty, basically a street circuit as it is a public park road for the majority of the year. There's Maciej Winnick, P7. Now we go towards the weight chicane, exiting what will be one of our 3 DRS zones this year, and plenty of moving and jostling about in the pack. We've got Carlos side by side now with Tomasz Voch, that is, in the second Road to Formula car. What happened to Jarl Tyen there at the start, Ed?
Yeah, sorry, I got distracted there and started wobbling because I saw Carlos trying to go round the outside of Robert Panzer at the weight chicane and then nearly falling into the clutches of Thomas Vack, who of course had a really good start from just outside points to get into 12th. But yeah, Jarl Tyen, his race just didn't really, he just bogged down completely, I think. It was literally that initial getaway where his race started to fall apart, and then meanwhile at the front, Frelich was absolutely on it at the start and got to the first corner before Alex Lahu. So Lahu, who's usually brilliant at starts, just made a small error, nothing that will destroy his race on its own at least. But yeah, Simon Frelick did not need to be asked twice, and he is absolutely delighted. TAP still could be on for, at the very least, 2 podiums 2 years in a row now at Park, but you can tell Frelick, he just wants to get his winning addiction. He's got to feed it somehow, and Jan Granqvist is the only one at the moment that's stopping him. But look at Stevens all over the rear of Alex Lehoux into the weight chicane. Side by side they go. Stevens has to back out, and he's going to try again into Ascari.
That's so brave, but there's another DRS zone here. They touched and went onto the grass. My goodness, that was nearly a calamitous accident there, right in front of the field. Well, we're on the second lap of the race, but you'll notice they're already using DRS. That is a change that's been put into place for this year. They're allowed to use DRS from the second lap onwards, as opposed to last year where it was the third lap. Yellow flags up there somewhere. Hopefully everyone still in the race. And we cut back to the front. Tom Stevens there, that was a very brave move on Lehoux. Lehoux clearly did not expect him to go for it quite that late, especially into the weight chicane. But Stevens is riled up. He sees the top two getting away from them. There's a 2-second gap now between Frelick and Lehoux. And Stevens wants through as quickly as humanly possible, Ed.
Yeah, that felt to me like Stevens senses that Lehoux is not so good at keeping the tyres live, and was just absolutely desperate to make the move. Saw there was the opportunity around the outside, but he didn't quite have the overlap, because the R2F car, as we saw in qualifying, has got pretty decent straight line speed, so the slipstream was helping him there. But now that hasn't worked out, Maggio is starting to ease back into the mix, and he's dragging Williams, Milnek and Fournier sort of with him as well. So yeah, that was a necessary gamble for Tom Stevens, but yeah, Lehoux was not going to play ball whatsoever on that one. And look at Frelick continuing to keep up with Jan Granqvist, 7/10, but look at this, 2/10 faster in the middle sector on this lap. So Jan Granqvist may be starting to be caught here.
Other people who have made a good start, Tomasz Vok is up to 12th position. Obviously, Altain did not make a good start, but he has made up a couple of positions since then. He's up to 13th now, having passed Sven Schubert. That graphic is hopeless. I cannot see what tyres anyone is on that.
Ooh.
But
Schluter on the mediums.
Schluter on the medium. Okay, so that's a differing strategy there. I should be checking race view, shouldn't I? That might have the differing strategies. But yeah, 4 laps into the race, Granqvist continues to lead. Frelick is second, and Granqvist as yet unable to break the DRS of Jim and Frelick behind. Lehoux and Stevens rather held each other up in that little battle there. They have dropped a couple of seconds back. Then it's Maggio 5th, Williams 6th, Winnick, Fournier, Machete and Pansar the top 10 as it stands. And I think the yellow flag might have been for Wopke Hoekstra again, I'm afraid, because he is now 9 seconds off the back of the pack. Now look at Tom Stevens. He's got a great run going towards the weight chicane. This time goes to the outside, and this time gets the move. Ed, Tom Stevens, our runner-up from last year, is into 3rd.
Yeah, because Lehoux had dropped off at the back of Frelick beyond a second, Lehoux didn't have DRS, so it was just a case of Stevens biding his time, waiting patiently and going around the outside at the weight chicane through 11 and 12 there. But crucial move for Stevens, because it now means he's got that free air in which to chase down Simon Frelick. So we are looking at the moment, I think, at a freeway fight for victory. But don't forget Maggio, he's eager to get his own back on Alex Lehoux. Got the better of him so many times last season. Unsurprisingly, with that DRS, Stevens sets the fastest lap then. And now we're going to see what the runner-up from the last 2 seasons running is really made of then, as he sets the timing screen well and truly alight.
Just a quick update on strategy, which we touched on before. The top driver on an alternate set of tyres, so not the soft tyres that the leaders started on, is Mark Schluter, who is currently in 15th position. Stefan Roll is also on a harder set of tyres, and then everyone from 21st place back. So the majority of the top 20 are on softs, which tend to be preferential at the start, so that you can make up track position. Of course, it rather cancels itself out if everyone around you is also on softs. But the back of the field, of course, who have all elected to go for something different, are all on a slightly harder compound of rubber. You have to use 2 different compounds of rubber during the race, which means that pit stops are inevitable and in fact mandatory. So 5 laps in now out of 58. Grangfist still unable to break away from Frelick, but now they've got Tom Stevens hunting them down, and already he's got that gap down about half a second. If Stevens regains DRS on Frelick here, he could well challenge for second there.
Yeah, and meanwhile, looking at Jarl Tyne, he's gained 1 position. He's passed Sven Schubert for 13th, but you can see just how much that bad start has sort of set him back in this race, as I think we're about to see a replay of his horrendous getaway here.
Yep, so here they are coming to the grid. We could do with skipping ahead a few seconds, because it'll be about 30 seconds between now and the start of the race. But Jarl Tyne, unfortunately, as we fast forward on, just did not get going. And I don't see anything strange on the telemetry or whatever. He just bogs down and fails to get going. Maybe he couldn't see the lights from where he was. Maybe there was some kind of other issue that befell him. All very clean through turn 1. I didn't see much bumping and banging at all.
Zeuw in the stacks very nearly hit him there at the apex of turn 1, but everybody did really, really well to avoid him, because he's like stationary for almost a full half second there as he goes side by side with Fak, who just muscles his way through. And this is what happened to the unfortunate Vopke Hoekstra. Still going, of course, 9 seconds down on Matt Richards, but you see Richards right ahead of him, and he just loses the rear into Ascari, swaps ends, but luckily gets it under control before contact is made with the wall. But yeah, not the ideal return to Super League for Vopke, who I believe is doing his first race since, I think, 2018, if memory serves. Was it 2017? Anyway, either way, he is certainly up against it for green stripes, but good to see him still going.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly when his last race in Super League was, but it's been a little while and a little bit of a trial by fire on his return so far. Now we're watching Jarl Tyne, P13. Talking of trial by fire, he's been struggling in this race so far. A strong qualifying, as we expected from THR, but that was not a THR-like start. In our predictions podcast, spoiling it slightly, we predicted that THR would be the team's championship this year. Carlos Martin, who of course is in this race running 11th, said that they would run away with it, winning 10 races out of the 16. Not looking like it's going to be that easy for them so far. But Jarl Tyne here on the back of Tomasz Vuk goes for a move around the outside into the chicane.
Oh!
You need to get your car ahead into the corner, because you cannot pull that move off if you're alongside, if you're just alongside the car in front of you. They'll get to the corner first and you'll be hung out to dry, potentially find yourself on the grass. But that was a good move there from Jarl Tyne. Up to P12 he goes. He knows that he should be doing better than this, so every position he gains, he will feel is a step back towards his righteous position.
Yeah, and of course THR reigning teams champions, they can't just do it with Tom Stevens, they need Jarl Tyne to contribute as well. They did a great job last year in his appearances for what is now Fraser Tartan. It used to be Nocturne last season. Then as we cut back to Alex Lehoux, just sticking with Tom Stevens, interestingly. So Lehoux has actually played this quite smart, used the DRS from the back of Stevens to slowly catch up to Frelick and Grangfist as well, who of course are trying to win the race at the slowest possible speed, but to keep the tyres alive and keep their strategic options open. But that means that they are falling into the clutches of the pack as well. But it also means Lehoux is not going to get DRS'd and breezed by Alessandro Maggio. But yeah, going back to Tyne, it was a very, very well-judged move on Thomas Fak there, where there was just enough space left around the outside for him to put that THR car in. And now I think Sven Schubert is going to see that and try and replicate it himself, as Lehoux has a little moment there for Ascari, but all looking neat and tidy so far. The Frenchman showing a maturity that I think belies his years. That Super Lights title, I think, is definitely interesting to see his mentality sort of changes again. The rear's just starting to lose a little bit of grip on lap 8 through the final corner, and now Maggio is going to get a little bit closer as a consequence.
There's Alex Lehoux still running in 4th position, and this has really brought the pack back together, with Stevens having got back past Lehoux, because not only has he caught up to the top 2, but Lehoux has come with him. Chris Shepherd into the pits, by the way. That's very early, so something going on there to the Red Archer car dropping to the back of the field. Talking of the back of the field, sorry, that was harsh on Wopke Hoekstra, but an update on Wopke Hoekstra, who you can see in the background there. His last race in Super League, we were speculating, is
21, wasn't it?
It's 2021. He did the British Grand Prix as a one-off for Cenobite Motorsports, but the last time he started the season was in 2019 for Measure It Racing, no longer. Matthew Williams here in 6th position with Adonis Esports, and he is right on the back of Alessandro Maggio, the provisional pole sitter who was rather dropped back. If you are a Maggio fan, don't panic by the fact that he's not, or don't panic about the fact that he's not making up positions straight away. This is a difficult circuit to overtake on, despite the many DRS zones. And realistically in Super League, you kind of have to hold your ground at some point and benefit from mistakes, benefit from strategy, and really count the laps down rather than up. Count down from the end of the race, and just make sure you're on it when you need to be. Matthew Williams here in 6th position as well. In terms of overtaking, one thing that does help is that these cars are equipped with push to pass. I think it's 100 seconds of push to pass they have. You don't always hear us talking about it because unfortunately we're unable to tell when they're using push to pass or how much they have remaining. But that's often where you don't see people pushing right from the start of the race because they're just conserving their push to pass and treating the race as it comes. Back to Tom Stevens now. He's right on the tail of Szymon Frelick. Goes to the outside just as he did. Oh, what kind of a chance does he have here? A very good one. And he goes right around the outside of Frelick for 2nd place. That was a really good move. Very close. It looked as if they were leaning on each other. But Tom Stevens is 2nd behind the driver he was runner-up to in last year's World Championship.
Yeah, I don't know how they avoided colliding into each other there, but Simon was trying to use DRS from the back of Jan, but such was the overspeed from Tom that he was still able to breeze his way around the outside, so that took a bit of cooperation from Simon, who I think is starting to struggle. Oh, big moment for Maggio, and through goes Matthew Williams.
Okay, well, he's lost a couple of places there, down to P7. I think he kept us out of the wall, didn't he? Unless I looked down at the wrong moment.
He might have tapped it, but yeah, he definitely got very sideways there.
Right in front of his teammate now, Ruben Machete. Not great. I'm going to have a look back on the YouTube stream, try to get that replay in before we see it. My goodness, that was a huge snapper oversteer. How he did not end up completely looping it around, I don't know. I saw a crash there in the Super Lights race as well, so it's definitely something people do. And Alessandro Maggio there. Well, he's unlucky to lose 2 positions, but I tell you what, he's more lucky to still be in the race.
Yeah, interesting that both the Red Archer cars hit so early on lap 18, lap 9 and 10 basically for hard tyres. Could they be trying to one-stop it, or is that a 2-stop potentially? That definitely feels like they're trying to undercut to gain ground as we see Panzer under attack. No, he's passing Jeffrey Fournier, sorry, for 9th position there. Now Fournier gets his dose of DRS, trying to get back around the outside at Ascari, but the Adonis cuts him off. Robin Panzer, ever the consistent driver, not going to leave a gap open there. Now Fournier's got to deal with Martin and Tyen, who are crowding the back of him and bringing Thomas Vack into this fight as well. So a very, very close fight to get into the top 9 here. And Fournier, his tyres are starting to fade. It's time to put on new ones.
Yeah, we're seeing some quite early pit stops in this one. I was a little bit confused by some of the drivers pitting further back because we were seeing some drivers pitting who did not start on the soft compound of tyre. So some slightly unusual strategies being employed here. The drivers pitting now are presumably going for 2-stop strategies. To do a 1-stop, you should realistically make it to about lap 20. It's worth noting, of course, that the 2nd stint of the race, if you are 1-stopping, will be longer than the 1st stint because, of course, you'll be on harder tyres that can run a bit longer, and also the car gets lighter as the race goes along due to the lack of refueling. And so you're easier on your tyres in the latter stint. Now watch Stevens as he slipstreams Grankvist, goes to the outside. We've seen him do this twice already. 3rd time's the charm. Tom Stevens takes the lead of the race. Now what can Grankvist do? There's another DRS zone here. Stevens has it. Stevens still has the DRS. It's left over from the last detection zone, and he's able to hold off Jan Grankvist, who now has Szymon Frelick in close proximity in 3rd position. But what a start to the race. Tom Stevens has had 4th place to the lead in 12 laps. We've often seen him do that. He races better than he qualifies, and that's why in the warm-up to this race, I said the words, "Don't count out Tom Stevens."
Yeah, well, it's certainly proving to be a shrewd choice so far. But yeah, Granqvist, to me, didn't look like he was fighting that one because he knew without the DRS, he didn't have much of a chance. As now we see Sven Schubert pit from 12th. So Red Archer have sort of started a bit of a trend here. We saw Fournier in the previous lap, and now we're seeing Istvan Singel from Stax and Daniel Brewer also in. Another driver coming back from a return. Good to see Istvan Singel still going. He was just outside the points paying positions in about 18th, 19th in the order then. So yet to get his first point on the board. I would love to see Istvan Singel right that wrong essentially and change the narrative around it, because he desperately needs a good result, I think, to bolster his confidence, if nothing else. I did talk to him, he said, well, I'm focusing more on FSR this season, which is obviously good for me, but also good for Stax, to put it that way. But hopefully his talent means he can score points in both now. So we see Williams really starting to challenge LaHoo here. So that mistake from Maggio has really opened things up for Matthew here.
Okay, Matthew Williams, he is a lot closer to LaHoo than he was last time out. Williams in the Donut Engineering car, which last year I got a little bit confused with the HRT, and even the what was the other car that looks... Oh my goodness, that's a huge slide from Matthew Williams, just as we saw with Alessandro Maggio. He slams on the brakes to bring the front back around, but he has lost a place. Mathieu Winnet goes through into 5th position in the HRT, and my goodness, well, that rather interrupted my train of thought. Let's look at LaHoo as well. LaHoo is challenging Frelick into turn 3. LaHoo was on the outside. He's going to drive right around the outside of the TOP Esports car. A great move from LaHoo there. And he goes right around the outside of Shimon Frelick. Fantastic.
Yeah, crucially there, Frelick lost DRS from the back of Granqvist there, so that's why they're all squabbling amongst themselves for third. And I wonder if Frelick, he pushed quite hard to beat LaHoo at the start, but now maybe starting to feel the pain on his tyres a little bit here. As we see Williams trying to get his own back on Milnek after that mistake at the final corner. He's surely not going to be given enough room. And indeed, Milnek is, you have to wake up very, very early in the morning to get one over on Masic there. And so the Polish driver holds that 5th position. We've not talked about him so much in the broadcast, but he was a big signing for HRT this season, qualified reasonably well in the top 7, and is now really starting to make his way towards the podium here. So we see the two valets lying astern in 7th and 8th, or starting to fight each other, as now Robin Panzar a real threat to Ruben Machete here. So this is an interesting moment for Valet, because they've got two very, very quick drivers all over the back of them now.
Yeah, Alessandro Maggio. Oh, yeah, you're tying now up the inside of Panzer, gets through into P9. So tying back into the top 10, partly helped by some of the pit stops and the incidents that we've seen in the race so far. I say incidents loosely, because luckily it's been a relatively clean one. But Yartayan going through into 9th position ahead of Robin Panzer, and the cars ahead of him now are the two Valet Esports cars of Ruben Machete and Alessandro Maggio. That's in reverse order, the order that he will catch them in, and he'll get DRS down this straight. This is one of 3 DRS zones, 4 DRS zones I think on this track actually, because you've got start finish straight, then turns 2 to 3, then here down to the weight chicane, and then you also have another little DRS zone on the exit of the chicane. You can open the rear wing flap right now, and this isn't normally an overtaking opportunity, but it just helps you to keep close to your opponents, follow them through this tighter section so you can have another shot down towards turn 3 on the next lap. Ruben Machete here, both pressuring and under pressure. And into the pits comes Maggio. A lot of people in the chat were saying they thought he might be struggling with the tyre wear already.
Caitlin.
And indeed, Stevens is in, Granqvist is in, LaHoo is in, so the pit lane suddenly very busy indeed. And also in is Robin Panzer. So 6 different cars in. There's one of the HRTs. And it must be Stefan Rohr, because because Mathieu Winnick has gone through to 2nd. So Frelick leads the race. Stevens is going to come out in traffic and wide and over the grass there. Goes Zoltschuk in avoidance. And Stevens comes out just in front of Pascal Pollens there.
Yeah, and I tell you why they've all pit. It's because those who pit for the hards, Fournier and Schubert, were lapping in the sort of mid-120s, while all the leaders were almost a second lap slower than that. So this is them sort of trying to respond to that. And you see Fournier is now up to 17th, Granqvist 15th, Stevens 12th. Those are crucially 2 cars in between. And here comes Jan all over the back of Zoltzik on those soft tyres then, so surely this is going to be a straightforward move. They've both got the DRS, but it's Grankvist that's got the speed around the outside on those hard tyres, and now desperately trying to keep his title rival Tom Stevens in touch. There's an Edge Esports in between them of Pascal Polenz now, and in comes Frelick from the lead.
And confusingly, Winnick does not from second place. So Winnick will lead. Frelick is in the pits. Williams is in the pits. There's another car behind them, and it's Jarl Tyen. So plenty of cars coming in every single lap. They see the lap times their opponents are setting down, and they say, well, we're going to be jumped if we don't. Of course, Jan Grankvist was already jumped slightly by Tom Stevens, who was already ahead of him, but he gained a couple of seconds, and they're both going to be quite considerably ahead here of Shimon Frelick, unless I'm very much mistaken. Shimon Frelick he's got a car between himself and Grankvist.
And that's Fournier. Look at Fournier, who has pit, trying to undercut him.
This is for position here. Jeffrey Fournier going for Shimon Frelick, and his tyres will be up to temperature as well, so he does temporarily have the advantage here. Until, of course, Frelick gets some heat in the tyres, and then he'll be back up to speed. But yeah, it really appears that the undercut is powerful here, because the later the drivers pitted, the more they seemed to drop back. So Stevens is ahead of Grankvist, who's ahead of Frelick. Here is Grankvist, and he's going past Pascal Polenz, who is also yet to pit. There we go.
Problem is, Stevens has just picked off Heiko Poom, who of course started the race on the harder compounded tyres there, much like Mark Schluter, Lalu, Fish and Fischer ahead of them did as well. Whereas all of our top four started on the softs and are sort of starting to lap quite slowly. The Ruben Machete still just about lapping in the 1 minute 20s, so still getting a bit of time out, but now they realise there's no point staying out. They've got to switch tyres. Carlos Martin now takes the lead. He's the only one still on those softs he started on, and Mark Schluter goes up to second.
Yeah, Winnick, Wook and Machete all in the pits now. I think the drivers who are staying out at this point have got to really consider that one stop, because everyone else is presumably doing a two-stop strategy, and if you pit now, you will be jumped by them. Out of the pits come the drivers who just stopped into a little bit of traffic. You want to be dropped in some clean air, but sometimes that just takes a bit of luck, to be honest, more than anything else. And you can just as easily come out in the midst of a swarm of hornets and wasps. Carlos Martin leads the race by 1.2 seconds over Mark Schluter. These two both won races last season, but have not had the start to this season that they would have wanted. Qualifying not quite up to scratch for them, but still plenty of time left in the season to improve that and make up some places. Alex Laho up to 11th now, just routed Vincent Gutt, who's yet to stop. And you'll see plenty of moving up and down the order from drivers doing similarly. Now, do they pit? They do indeed, at least Martin does. So Schluter will lead the race now, as Carlos Martin boxes the TOP Esports car.
Yeah, and now Stevens has picked off Dylan Fisher, as Grankvist has picked off the other AK hero of Heiko Poom. Then, yeah, Carlos, I don't think really could have extended much more than he did. Well, actually, to keep the softs relatively competitive for 19 laps there, so, or 18 laps, I should say, because we just started lap 19. But yeah, those who started, of course, on the hards have really got to extend it to give themselves the best chance. And now Stevens is trying to go up the inside of Lalu. Can Lalu help his teammate out here at all? No, he can't there. Stevens up to second.
And Fournier's got Lahu. Now, we saw that they were fighting before. I don't know if we actually saw the overtake, but Fournier is in 9th position now.
I think
ahead
he
of
undercut
Alex.
him. He undercut him in the pits. So it was Frelick who came out just ahead of him. But
Okay.
Who came out just behind.
Well, that could put him into a it depends on, so it's not quite an overall podium position, because obviously Frelick here going for a move on Polenz would be the third placed driver to have made that pit stop. It's Stevens, then Grankvist, then Frelick, but Fournier is still in with a real shout of winning, or at least being on the podium today. You see he's going past Pascal Polenz on the straight, through he goes, DRS open. I say that's not normally an overtaking opportunity, but it does depend. And I think Vincent Gutt might have been in trouble there, because I saw a yellow flag right as Gutt was losing a couple of places. It might have been someone else, but we're going to see a replay, so if it was him, then we'll pick up on it. And it's Alessandro Maggio. Has something happened to our original pole sitter? He's got Tomasz Vok on his tail. Oh. And he loses it by himself. Oh, and a big crash into the wall, and Alessandro Maggio who looked as if he had a chance of winning today, is unfortunately out of the race. Our first retirement from the season, and in a big, big way.
Yeah, one mistake and it ended up being so costly there, but so easy to do. Maybe you can imagine a little bit of frustration creeping in there, but where was Thomas Factor? That was sort of, they were running in sort of the top 15 essentially after having both just pitted then. So yeah, that's a real shame for Maggio, because I think just letting a little bit of the pressure get to him on that occasion. But yeah, I think he's going to have to lick his wounds then, as we see Frelick quickly pick off Heiko Poom and Jeffrey Fournier, not wasting any time now either, picking off that AKA hero. So yeah, there's no resting room for Simon Frelick anywhere on this track, because Fournier on this different strategy has been keeping the pressure on. Now Schluter pits on his mediums. Yeah, he was lost about 2 seconds, I think, the previous lap almost to Tom Stevens. So that tracks really that he didn't really have any option to run any longer than 21 laps here.
Yeah, but especially to be seriously considering that one-stop strategy, that's potentially why he started on the medium tyres rather than the softs, because he would have had that in mind. Dylan Fisher also in the pits now, could be doing something similar. Here's Tom Stevens, who's now back in the lead of the race and leads by 1.5 seconds over Jan Granqvist. Possibly the first time all day that we've seen a realistic leader, a net lead, with over a second's worth of an advantage. And part of that will be due to the traffic that Granqvist found himself in as he came out of the pit. There were a couple of cars between himself and Stevens, and that's translated to a 1.5 second gap. So after the first pit stop window of the race, Tom Stevens leads, followed by Jan Granqvist. Jukka-Pekka Laulu is yet to stop, so currently runs third. And there we see Alex Laho overtaking Heiko Poom for P6. So Lalu third, then Frelick, Fournier, Lahu, Poom, Williams, Tyne and Winnick. This is Williams now getting past Poom in his own right. You see Poom on those medium tyres, also going for a similar strategy that Mark Schluter and of course Poom's own teammate Dylan Fisher have employed. So a frenetic start to the race, but it seems like this is a strategic one that's going to go all the way.
Yeah, for AK Hero, they sort of had to roll the dice a bit, didn't they, on their ultimate strategy, starting on the harder compounds and trying to run as long as they can. So they're losing time in this stint, but when they're on the softer tyres later on, they may be able to break both cars back into the points in the top 15. So yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out. We also got Mark Schluter on that alternate strategy, who has come out just behind Sven Schubert then with Rate Kilk for Good Company in that Red Archer, who of course was on the first to pit as well. So yeah, Schluter's sort of on the he's sort of trying to split the difference, isn't he? Having started on the medium compound and then gone for the hards, I suppose. So we'll have to see how long he can go this time. But up front though, Stevens and Granqvist still 8 tenths apart. I think Jan maybe is still in play here, trying to hope that Stevens will push that a little bit too hard. If you look at the lap time, Stevens was about 6 tenths slower the previous lap then. So I wonder DRS starting to come into effect here, because Jan didn't lose that much ground when getting through those who were staying out and running longer in the first stint. Now Stevens is in maybe a little bit of a weaker position. So Jan, very mature, showing his experience, showing why he's the reigning champion. He's absolutely keeping Stevens in range here. Lalu also yet to pit, but running in a very credible third and starting to hold up Frelick a little bit actually. Frelick about 1.4 seconds behind out of DRS range. So Lalu, we haven't talked about him too much in this race, using this strategy well, as we see a little bit of a drift into turn 3 from Granqvist as he gets a little bit too close in the slipstream of Stevens there.
That was a very good lap from Granqvist, 3 tenths faster than Stevens, and he's already gained a few tenths at the start of this lap as well. He's now back within DRS range of the leader of the race. So Granqvist potentially using up some of that push to pass, that hybrid power, to get himself closer to Tom Stevens in the lead. But as well as that, he's also just fired up considering what's happened in this race so far. Either of these drivers or someone else entirely could still win this race. Jan Granqvist, you see him with the DRS open, closes the DRS as he stamps on the brakes. That happens automatically, of course. You don't have to think about shutting the DRS flap. It just happens as you stand on the brakes. And then towards the end of this particular lap, they go. It's also worth noting that Stevens' teammate Yartayan has made up a couple of positions in the pit stages. He's now jumped Maciej Munich and Ruben Machedi, and he was behind both of them before these pit stops happened. So Jarl making up some ground. He's now properly in the top 10 and catching up to Matthew Williams as we speak as well. So consider Yartayan a contender for a top 5 still, despite what happened at the start.
Yeah, there's a train forming behind Lalu, by the way, because Frelic's within 6/10 of him now. So we've got Lalu, Frelic, Fournier, Lehu, and Williams all within about a second of each other, essentially. And then Yartayan another 2 seconds in the rear. So if Lalu starts to hold this pack up, that's good news for Yartayan.
Just taking a look. Oh, here we go. Alex Lehu has caught back up to Fournier. Now, Fournier almost seemed to give him that. He moved wide to the outside line, and through went Lehu on the inside. I wonder if Fournier...
Frelic as well.
Yeah, and Frelic's got Lalu. Slightly less importantly, of course, Lalu on a differing strategy, but that does mean Lehu's going to be able to challenge him now around the outside.
Ooh,
gets over that curve. We've seen that it's twitchy out there. Lalu covers him off. And now towards the last couple of corners of this lap, they're really going to get bunched up now. This is going to allow Frelic to get back away from them, but to their immense pleasure, they see Lalu darting into the pit lane. So Jakub Lalu finally makes that pit stop that we've been waiting for, and through into third place goes Frelic, fourth is Lehu, fifth Fournier, and fifth is Matthew Williams. He's just passed Fournier on the entrance to turn 1. A good move there, slipstreamed him down the straight. Can Fournier come back at him? They both got the DRS. And Williams does have 5th place, Ed.
Yeah, there was a bit of a concertina effect where Lehu was being held up a little bit by Lalu. Lalu then pit, and that backed Fournier into Williams. So Williams timed it very, very well into turn 1. We see Fournier just starting to struggle, I think, with tyre wear. Having been the first to pit, undercutting his way up into the top 5 now, sort of struggling to hold on to the front tyres through some of the faster corners then. So, yeah, Fournier could well be falling into clutches of Yartayan before too long here as well, who's now 1.4 seconds behind and lapping one of the fastest men on track, apart from Ruben Machedi, who's getting a lovely tow right behind him. He's going about half a second quicker as well.
Yeah, and it's not quite a double DRS you get when you're on the back of a couple of cars, but you definitely get the benefit of both slipstream and DRS from a car that's already going faster than usual. So the car at the back of the train will have the advantage on the straight. The trouble, of course, is when you get to the corner, there's absolutely no respite from the turbulent air of the car in front. The wings don't exactly like it when you're running in a pocket of basically a vacuum coming out the back of the car in front, because they need that air in order to grip the track. Yartayan currently running P7, so has gained another place since last time I look. I guess that's because Lalu pitted, so that makes sense. But properly in the top 7 now, right on the back of Geoffrey Fournier and in front of Ruben Machedi, who is now Valley Esports' only hope in this race. Tell you what, I've just noticed the YouTube chat going absolutely crazy when Maggio retired, because unfortunately quite a few of them predicted it. Yartayan now to the inside of Geoffrey Fournier and does make the move into the weight chicane. That one relatively straightforward. Now, one thing I'm noticing, Ed, Fournier seems to be leaving the door wide open for people. Look at this, he's just left the inside open for Machedi as well, who also comes through. So what's Geoffrey playing at here? Does he just not want to use the push to pass? Does he know that he's beaten or something? Because
could
that's
be
3
a
cars.
one-stop. If he's doing a one-stop, then there's no point trying to hold people up, because he just lose even more time. So if he's thinking overall time in the race, then this is a strategy that makes sense, especially if he just wants to hang at the back of a train of cars, use the DRS to stay mostly in play. And Geoffrey, this isn't his first rodeo, not by a long shot, of course, so he knows what he's doing. But it's definitely a interesting call from the Epic Racing Tribe. But look how much already Machedi and Tyan are starting to pull away from him.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting call if it is strategic, if it is calculated.
He must be two-stopping because he hit so early, didn't he?
Surely, but he's just leaving the door wide open for people. That's 3 cars now that have come through where he's made absolutely no attempt to defend at all. And in fact, sometimes he just moves to the side on the straight. It's almost like, after you, champ, there you go. But anyway, we'll keep an eye on what's going on with him. He still seems to be going at pace. And talking of pace, Szymon Frelick has caught back up to Alex Lahoud.
Who's got through? Well, we've been not watching.
That's
so
true. Sorry, yes. No, I was distracted because I was watching, and he's lost a good second or two on this lap. Let me see what the sector time. Yeah, so he lost 7/10 in the first sector alone, and his last lap was not great. So something has happened here to Szymon Frelick, presumably in the first sector of this lap potentially. And through went Alex Lahoud. Sorry for calling that wrong, but now he's under pressure from Matthew Williams as well. That Adonis Esports driver challenging for 4th place. What's this on the exit of turn 2, Ed?
Yeah, must have been a mistake then from Szymon Frelick then, as Williams' eyes starting to light up because there's another chance for a podium here at the start of the season. Remember, he got one in Japan at Suzuka last year, but otherwise he had a bit of a tricky season. So good to see Matthew Williams leading the charge for Adonis and putting Szymon Frelick under even more pressure. All of these drivers in the top on the harder tyres, trying to run them longer in this second stint then, as Lahoud has set his personal best lap of the race, 1:19.5, trying to get the 2 leaders back in range, but they're about 5 seconds up the road. So plenty of work for Lahoud to do, but he is going to try and do it. And of course, Szymon Frelick and Matthew Williams will be hoping to stay within DRS range. That's what's helping Szymon at the moment. It's also helping Ruben Machete, because he's not quite close enough to get DRS from Matthew Williams in front of him. So yeah, Jarl Tyen has got a little bit of advantage here, but you sense a train now starting to form behind Szymon Frelick.
Yeah, out of the final corner on this lap comes Jarl Tyen, who now has the slipstream of Ruben Machete up ahead of him. And that... I swear I remember saying Tyen had jumped Machete in the pits, didn't I? That was not too long ago.
Yeah, he's just gotten back through, so...
Is that on the last lap? But I'm also sure last time I mentioned Tyen, he was in 7th place, which he is now. So I'm a little bit confused about all of this.
Oh, well, that was Fournier slipping behind him, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course it was. So Machete has just passed Tyen there. And I think, judging by the YouTube stream, he did it into the way she came last time. So, yeah, no, so that's a change for position. Good stuff.
And now Martin is really close to the back of Jeffrey Fournier. He's surely going to get through before they get to the weight chicane. You can just see it in the background. There we go. He's already done it then. So Carlos Martin in the second TOP. We see Frelick starting to struggle falling behind Alex Lahoud, but his teammate is starting to join the battle himself then. So this is looking pretty good for THR and TOP in the start of their team's championship bids. Meanwhile, Mark Schluter on this alternate strategy is matching Thomas Vack ahead of him down in 13th position then. So you can tell maybe Mark Schluter, if he's trying to one-stop, that makes sense why he's not in the 119s at the moment. He's trying to keep these hard tyres in good nick. He wants to go to the end maybe.
Just over halfway into this race now, Tom Stevens continues to lead the race by a second over Jan Grankvist. It's also worth noting...
Lalu in trouble.
Right, let's take a look at Lalu if we can. If it is indeed Jukka-Pekka Lalu drop back, because there was a yellow flag out there, you're right. But there's Gut, there's Single, and there's Lalu, and it looks as if he's either disconnected or retired the car by himself. So Jukka-Pekka Lalu, unfortunately, in the second Super Venturi, is out of the race. The team that narrowly missed out on the team's championship last year. He was side by side. Is that
Brewer?
It's Brewer, yeah. Around the outside. Do they touch? They do indeed. And they both run out towards the wall and wallop. And that is the end of Jukka-Pekka Lalu's race. Just a second retirement of the day, and both of those retirements have been relatively large crashes, Ed.
Yeah, that's a huge shame for Lalu, but the problem, Brewer sort of understeered into him. It's such a tricky corner, isn't it? That's Stewart, isn't it? Turn 14, just after Ascari, where you really need the driver on the inside to stay right to the inside in order to pull that one off. Yeah, that was aggressive from Lalu, but he sort of was down in just outside the top 20 after his pit stop, needed to make up ground. So that was just really unfortunate for both of them. And I think Brewer losing a bit of time to Zolcic in all of that, as well as we look at Jeffrey Fournier Now Milnek is passed as well as Martin, so I think Milnek is dropping behind Carlos Martin in the pit stops as well. So Milnek did look like he was right with Jarl Tyne earlier, and now he's starting to struggle himself. So maybe this is a case of those who pit a couple of laps earlier are starting to feel the pain in this stint then. But yeah, definitely Geoffrey Fournier having pit after just, 11 laps I think for Geoffrey? Yes, it was, on the soft tyre. He's done 19 on this hard compound. And he's really starting to feel the grip slip away from him, and Robin Pansar surely is going to be the next to challenge him. So still Geoffrey Fournier in a better position. He's in about the same position than he was before the pit stops, wasn't he? He was just inside the top 10. So the gamble at the moment, it's sort of not hurting or hindering him. It's sort of just putting him in a difficult position at this moment, but it could come back to him at the next pit stop phase if he's able to split the difference by running long now. But anyway, Grankvist back within 6/10 of Stevens, and Stevens doing incredibly well, it must be said, to hold up to the pressure of his teammate. But now Super Venturi, all the hopes rest with Jan Grankvist, the reigning champion, with the number 1 on the front of his car, trying to take the win back out of Tom Stevens' hands here. But I think it's going to come down to putting Stevens under pressure, and everyone who was watching last season will remember that fantastic finish at Spa where Stevens just held on for Grankvist. I have a feeling history could well repeat itself with Jan pulling out all the stops, but he can't quite make an impression at the present moment.
Yeah, Jan, last time we saw Jan Grankvist, he was just within a second of Tom Stevens. Then he dropped back for a little while. I was watching the gap intently to see what would happen with it, and it stayed at around a second, 1.2 seconds for maybe 5 laps or so, and then Grankvist started to push again. The last time around he took a good 3 or 4 tenths of a second out of Tom Stevens to get back with him, and now he is indeed back in that DRS range. You sometimes see that in races for the lead, especially, where a driver will drop back for a little bit, save their DRS, and then they'll have another go and try to catch the guy in front off guard. But Stevens will not be caught off guard. Jan Grankvist, we're very lucky to have him racing with us, actually. Unfortunately, it's been a bit of a trend in previous years where the reigning champion doesn't stick around to defend their championship. That's a tradition that goes back a good 4 or 5 years now, unfortunately. So it's almost unexpected to see Jan Grankvist on the grid this year, and in post-season testing he said that he might not commit to this season. He still says he might not commit to the full season, but I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say that I very much hope he does, because if we do have anyone with a chance of defending titles in the 2020s, something no one has done yet, no one's done since Lucas Euler in 2013-2014, then Jan Grankvist is that driver, and we see him demonstrating that by running right with the leader and looking like he could well snatch the lead at a moment's notice.
Yeah, certainly no room for error for either of these drivers. They are keeping the gap very, very steady. Who was only a tenth quicker, or just under a tenth quicker actually, the previous lap. So the gap had dipped to 5 seconds briefly. Now it's looking at 5.8 at the present moment. We also have just seen Chris Shepherd make his second stop, so he was only able to do about 24 laps, I think, on the hard tyre there. And he's come out in 25th, about 3 seconds behind Istvan Singel in 24th, of course. So, yeah, Red Archer did roll the dice, but you sense neither Kilk or Shepherd has really been able to make it work. Although, with that said, Rate Kilk is still about 5 seconds off the final point, being held by Stefan Rutt. And now we see Robin Pansar pulls the trigger then for that would be his second stop of the race, certainly, because he's done 17 laps on the mediums, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he was just overtaken by Wok on that last lap as well, so maybe his tyres were going off a little bit and he decided it was time. But
Pansar going to the end, I think. That's hards on that car.
Oh yeah, he'll definitely be going to the end from here. Oh, that's close. Oh, that's very close on pit exit there with Dan Brewer. And of course, Hygo Poom also getting involved. Here comes Pansar now, challenging Brewer, who's just come up behind, and rubbing wheels with him into turn 3. And now he'll have the inside for turn 4. Little car park section this, which is literally a car park. And through he goes, P18 now. And Hygo Poom has also swept through into P19, takes advantage of that, and also gets past Dan Brewer, who is 20th. And there's Pascal Pollens, the other car in the train, in P21.
Yeah, that was interesting there for Poom, because you saw there that Panzer came out the pits right at the apex where he wanted to be. He got badly held up, but then kept his head. There was a very opportunistic move around the outside to follow Panzer and to gain that position then on Dan Brewer. Then Brewer not having the triumphant return that I think he would have hoped to. The man who won, of course, races back in 2022, of course, as we now cut to Polenz, who is trying to make an impression himself then. And we now see Sven Schubert for Fraser Tartan. That tracks that he's starting to run out of tyres. He's on 21 laps on those hard compound tyres then. So the Fraser Tartan driver should be going hards to the end now, as he started, of course, on the softs. And that's going to put him behind that intense battle. So he should be behind Polenz, but ahead of Vincent Gert in 21st position then. So there's every chance FTR could get back into the lower reaches of the points, which is what Sven Schubert will be aiming for. You see the gap to Pascal Polenz clearly in front of him. Meanwhile, Jan Grankvist still 5/10 behind Tom Stevens, and Alex Lahou still about 5/10 ahead of Simon Frelick, but it's now Tyen on the move, trying to get revenge on Ruben Machete into Ascari. Machete defends the inside. No room for Jarl Tyen just yet, but he's going to try and go up the inside into Stewart Corner, into turn 14. This is where Lalu crashed earlier, and Tyen decides to lift off and wait for a better opportunity there. So Machete defending well, pulling out all the stops. The sole valet driver left in the race needs to hold up his end as the German to keep Valet in the mix here.
Clever racing from the two of them. I thought Tyen had got it when he got his nose up the inside, using that switchback maneuver, getting the inside as Machete was on the curb. But Machete was just about able to find the grip and keep the car pointed and ahead of Jarl Tyen. Of course, he was helped a little bit by the fact the penultimate corner is a left-hander. Stein Hangraf in the pits now as well, and Dan Brewer follows him in. So the second pit window is showing signs of kicking off now. Admittedly, a lot of the drivers. And here is Jan Grankvist. This is for the lead of the race. And suddenly, Grankvist has pulled the pin. He goes through and leads this race for the first time in a good 20 laps or so. Tom Stevens, what can he do about it? Nothing into this corner. Grankvist still has the DRS from the last detection zone, but that was really unexpected. He's been sitting about 0.6 of a second behind Stevens. He must have just got a really good exit to the corner before and decided to dump some push to pass, but Grankvist did manage to make it stick and now leads this race once again, Ed.
Yep, so maybe a bit of a bad exit through turn 6 from Tom Stevens as well could have enabled that opportunity. But yeah, Grant Grankvist have been waiting patiently for it, and now he retakes the lead. So let's take a look at what happened then. So Jan is quite far back actually, using the DRS, and as you say, a bit of push to pass employed here. Gets to the outside. There was a bit of an attempt to defend the inside, but he wasn't going to try and extend the corner there into the chicane. There was no way that Stevens was going to be able to fight. Such was the speed of Grankvist Super Venturi. So now the reigning champion's got control. He's got track position at the head of the field once again, and now he can dictate how this final phase of the race is going to play out, because we've still got the last pit stop to go. Will Stevens cut his losses now and go for the mediums to the end, or will he try something a little bit different here?
Will Stevens? I didn't know he was racing today. Anyway, Jan Grankvist continues to lead this race by 0.6 of a second now over Tom Stevens. Here's Jarl Tyen, who I believe has just made a pit stop by the look of it. So the second pit window is kicking off now for the leaders as well. That's the point I was going to say before. Every driver who had pitted before was a driver who we could reasonably say is on an alternate strategy. Drivers who had started the race on a harder compound of tyre. But now that Jarl Tyen has done it, who's to say that the other leaders won't be in very shortly indeed. I think 20 laps now to the end. You can definitely go to the end here on pretty much any tyre that you so wish. It would be difficult on the softs, but I still think that you could do it. And Tomasz Vok and Mark Schlitter are in the pits as well, thus extra proving my point. So it's Grankvist leading from Stevens, Lahou, Frelick, Williams, Machete, Martin, Winnick, Fournier and Royal, the top 10. There is Jeffrey Fournier on the back of Stefan Royal. Matching Winnick, sorry. One thing I do want to say actually is that HRT's manager, Defan Routring, messaged me earlier and said that the livery you see on the car today is not the livery that they will be running with all season long. they have actually had a livery designed for them he said by Owen. I don't know if that means Owen McGorgy or a different Owen. I presume it means Owen McGorgy.
I think so, yeah.
But yes, he said...
Unless Owen Harmon has got into livery design, we'll try down.
No, different spelling of Owen. But he said Owen's designed them a livery, and he sent me a picture of it. And without meaning to judge, I do think it looks better than the livery that they're currently using on their car. And,
still, at least you won't get him mixed up with Adonis with that livery.
That's what I was trying to get onto earlier. Ruben Machete into the pits now from 6th place. I was going on a bit of a tangent, which kind of went nowhere in the end because I got interrupted. But that's where I was going. I was going to bring up the livery change that Holland Racing Team are overdue. So Martin's in the pits now, Winnick in the pits, Fournier, Machete coming out, of course. We mentioned him coming in first. And the leaders will probably not be too far behind this bunch, side by side in the pit lane there for Machete and Winnick. Good thing that Winnick had his wits about him and didn't come across straight in front of them. And Jarl Tyne goes through, so Tyne has jumped Machete as a result
lap of the race as well for Jarl Tyne, purple first and final sectors. So yeah,
and you get an extra point for that. You get an extra point for that if you finish the race with fastest lap, so long as you're in the top 15, of course. And Jarl Tyne there has used all of the pace that he has in that car to not just take the fastest lap of the race, but to propel himself ahead of Ruben Machete, who was just ahead of him before the pit stop win.
Yeah, so crucial decision there, but of course, Tyne is on 2 lap older tyres here, so he needs to make hay while he's in the better position. I don't want to say while the sun shines, because it's a little bit overcast in the background, but still bright and sunny temperatures in terms of as far as the drivers are concerned. Now back all over the back of Jeffrey Fournier, who's done 27 laps on those hard tyres. They're screaming enough. Into the pits come Lehoux, Frelick and Williams. So surely our top 2 have got to respond next time around to avoid being undercut by Alex Lehoux.
Yeah, Tomasz Vok here, right on the back of Fournier. And if there's one thing you don't want as a defending driver, it's whack on your back. Into the pits as well. A couple of drivers pitting from further up. Shimon Frelick looks to be losing position, so I presume he's been in. And Alex Lehoux and... Well, there's Frelick, so... Did he...
Jarl Tyne's jumped Frelick.
Yes, Jarl Tyne has. Goodness me, this is an undercut
So Frelick has jumped Alex Lehoux as well in the pits. Because Lehoux came in ahead.
So Lehoux loses 2 places. Frelick gains at least 2. Gains 3 here. Jarl Tyne, gains. And after the poor start that he had to the start of this race, this is very important indeed. Ruben Machete and Matthew Williams fighting now over 7th position. We're still yet to see Grankvist and Stevens in for their second stop, and also Stefan Rohr as well, who is temporarily up there in 3rd position. Into the chicane goes Ruben Machete. We've got just 18 laps to go in this race now, 17 laps as Grankvist starts another lap. If you pit now, surely you can go to the end on whatever tyre compound you decide to go onto. And I expect as Maciej Winnick there goes past Shimon Frelick.
That's
I expect
Fischer.
that, yes, goes past Fischer, sorry. As I was saying, I'm sure that the race engineers of both Grankvist and Stevens will be telling them the state of play, telling them that they can pit now and take advantage of the situation. As Stefan Rohr does pit, and that puts Jarl Tyne up into 3rd position. And no, your eyes do not deceive you. Jarl Tyne, who dropped to 14th, 15th place on the first lap of the race, is on the podium.
Yeah, spectacular recovery. He has just shown some really good pace, made a few good moves, and also just had a really that stranded position to undercut to get track position has worked wonderfully for him. But now comes the tricky bit because he's on older tyres and Simon Frelick is still within 9/10 of him. Now Alex Lehoux is setting purple first sectors here, 3/10 quicker than Frelick and 2/10 quicker than Jarl Tyne then. So Road to Formula are not done yet. They want to get Lehoux back on the podium. Does Grankvist pit? No, but Stevens does from 2nd. So yeah, Stevens, I think maybe even trying to cover off Jarl Tyne here.
Well, I'm not surprised Stevens pitted. He lost a little bit of time on that lap up until that point. And yeah, in the pits indeed. His sector times don't make sense. So I think that's probably showing his best lap rather than the lap that he's just done. But yeah, Stevens changing onto a set of mediums, I think. Jarl Tyne going through. I think he'll just come up behind Stevens. That's to be expected. with where they were before that stint, but what a stint that was from Jarl Tyen. What an undercut that was to put him back on to the onto the podium. And if he finishes here, he's got to be... Sorry?
Zeeuw is flying 118.7. He's right behind Simon Frelick again. So yeah, Jarl Tyen's not going to be on his own for too long, is he? So Zeeuw steals the fastest lap off him. And yeah, in that first sector, especially 28.0, he's just speeding along. And Frelick is going to have to get defensive here to keep him behind.
Yeah, fastest lap for Zeeuw, but also personal bests from Frelick, Williams, Machete and Martin. They're all absolutely flying at that part of the field. And here comes Shimon Frelick round the outside of Jarl Tyen and does go through into third place. So Tyen was not quite able to hold off the charging Frelick, who is on slightly fresher tyres. And I was about to say, if Tyen holds on to the podium, then this will be driver of the day potential. But Frelick, having made his pit stop a few laps later, he would have taken a little while to get his tyres up to temperature, but now they're up to temperature. He does have a bit of an advantage. There is Grankvist. Now, what has Stevens done? Has he managed to jump the race leader? No, he has not. So Grankvist maintains the race lead. What will the gap be? Probably about 1.5 seconds. It was about 2 seconds before they pitted, because Stevens did not have a great in-lap. So Stevens definitely gained time. Very good in-lap indeed. So Stevens gained time, but not enough to catch up to Jan Grankvist. And Shimon Frelick, with that slipstream manoeuvre that we saw on the last lap, snatched the fastest lap of the race away from Alex Zeeuw.
Yeah, and now Zeeuw has got to hope he can pass Tyen quickly, because Frelick is going to surely pull away there. Somebody kicks up a lot of dust. It was Simon Frelick going too wide at turn 6. The Tyen will go back up the inside. Can Zeeuw follow him through? They're almost going to go 3 wide here. Oh, that's not Smither. And is Zeeuw going to make a double move? Yes, he is. Fantastic racecraft and awareness from Alex Zeeuw, and he's back on the podium.
Oh, that's fantastic there from Alex Zeeuw. Really pounced when he needed to. That was a mistake from Shimon Frelick, which bunched them all up. And you have to assume that Tyen was just caught a little bit off guard by that. Was able to go through, but was not able to hold off the flying Road to Formula car, who is also still setting personal best laps of his own race. Out of the final corner, they come for another lap. About 15 laps to go now. Alex Zeeuw will be feeling on top of the world. Here's a replay of what just happened. You see Frelick, or you see the aftermath of Frelick running through the gravel and then rejoining the race. By the way, Tom Stevens sets the fastest lap of the race. He is charging after Jan Grankvist, who himself set the fastest third sector of the race. So the battle for the lead still ongoing, and they will be pushing for all their worth from here until the end of the race, dumping their bank accounts worth of push to pass, because they've got no use for it after the checkered flag. They've got to use it now. Zeeuw still third, and after seeing that replay, I'm doubly impressed that he was able to take advantage of that one, because I mean, yes, he was able to do so by flooring it and flying past them, but this isn't a straight. You've got to remember, you've got to position your car so you don't get crowded to the edge of the circuit, so you don't get boxed in. And Zeeuw really heads up driving there, proper awareness, as you said, to benefit from that situation. And I think Pansar just passed Walk there for 11th place.
Yeah, there we go. So DRS working there for Pansar. But interesting, Zeeuw is only about 3.9 seconds behind Stevens. So, yeah, if Stevens and Grankvist start to fight each other again, Zeeuw isn't completely out of this fight for victory. He's done a very, very good job to keep them both in sight, actually. And, of course, like we said, to get back through after losing a bit of ground at the pit stop. So we're not sure exactly if maybe it was just he might have just missed the pit box by a couple of inches and had to reverse into it, but or had to extend into it, rather. But yeah, either way, Zeeuw recovering brilliantly and showing he absolutely belongs our reigning Superlights champion here in Super League. So he is looking very, very good now to maybe take a podium first time out. Now Grankvist sets the fastest lap of the race and then sets the fastest first sector again to boot, 28.013. So the gap to Tom Stevens, 1.5 seconds. You keep Stevens, as you see Hoekstra getting out of everyone's way a lap down. If he can keep Stevens out of DRS range, I think Grankvist should be able to manage things, go to the checkered flag here. So Grankvist has done a really, really good job here. So now we see Thomas Vack trying to use DRS to go back around the outside. They've both got DRS here. Oh, and just having to back out at the last minute is Robin Pansar there. So maximum aggression from Thomas Bach to keep 2 Road to Formula cars in the top 11 here.
Yeah, they don't know Checo or Juho Sopanen in the YouTube chat says, what is Alex on? He is absolutely cooking, and indeed he is. But also cooking, as you said, was Jan Grangfist, who is responding to the threat of Tom Stevens behind him. He's just set another fastest lap of the race and pulled out 0.4 of a second over Tom Stevens. Stevens has got to hope that Grangfist is using up all of his push to pass and all of his tyres quickly, because if he's still got some left in the tank at the end, he is going to be unbeatable. Matthew Williams here, P7, just on the back of Ruben Machete, who's done a quietly pretty good job here in Valley Esports' first race. Machete's only done a few Super League races before this one, and we weren't even expecting him to be racing here today, but we were expecting Sergio Fletcher to be the Valley Esports driver alongside Alessandro Maggio, but Machete has turned up much to our surprise and looks to be able to score a top 10, and we'll have to see how that translates to the rest of the season. Now it looks like there was a change of position. I think, did Tomasz Wok just pass Jeffrey Fournier for P10, I think? Stefan Ruhl also passing Mark Schluter for P14. So changes going on a little bit further down in the points. We're going to see a replay now. And this is Tomasz Wok, and you can see he's on the back of Fournier. And this will be the move we've just seen. And once again, Fournier leaves the door wide open. Just lets Wok through. I am really confused as to why he keeps doing that, because I've seen several overtakes now that Fournier could very easily have fended off just by not doing what he just did. So I'll have to ask him about that. I'm really confused by that. But anyway,
and he's on a lap younger tyres than Thomas Bach as well, so you're right.
Yeah.
It is, maybe he's just struggling for pace at the moment. Maybe he didn't set the car up necessarily for maximum straight line speed like some knows. Oh, big crash! And that's tying out of the race, surely.
Yeah, I mean, has he kept all the wheels on his car? He's out.
No.
Jarl Tyne is out of the race. Oh my goodness, and after such a great recovery drive where it looked as if he would fight for the podium right to the end, Jarl Tyne has dropped it completely by himself. Goodness me, that really does ring shades of Alessandro Maggio, who was doing so well earlier on and then crashed completely unprompted. Jarl Tyne, just one of those completely random DNFs that you do not see coming right out of the blue. A lapse of concentration perhaps, but also that's one of the toughest corners on the track. You go through that so fast and you've got to dip your wheels off the track. Clearly it's just bitten him, and what a shock there for THR, whose only hope now lies in Tom Stevens, who's second place in this race. Ed, what a shock for Jarl Tyne.
Oh, I can hear somebody crying in despair as well at Jarl Tyne's retirement in the background there, Caitlin. But yeah, that was exactly where Simon Frelick dropped it as well a few laps ago, that enabled Tyne and Lahoo to have that crazy three-wide moment with him. But now, of course, Tyne, maybe the rear's just starting to go, trying to push out a little bit too hard to keep Frelick behind, has backfired quite horribly. And that's a lot of points THR have lost in the team's championship. So let's rewind a bit and see how that happened. Yeah, you can see the front right tyre fell off in the impact there. And yeah, let's see. So he goes into the apex normal, then the rear starts to bite over the curb, and he's just sent, he's a passenger at that point into the wall. So Jarl Tyne, who's got one of the best car control that I've seen in sim racing, even he struggles. So that shows you just how challenging these Super League cars can be to drive. So 3 top drivers, I must say, Jarl Tyne, Jukka Lalo, Alessandro Maggio, all out of the race then. So not the attrition we saw here last year, but still, that's showing that even the top drivers are falling foul here in the dry here in Albert Park. So that shows you, with let's see, 9 laps to go, just getting to the end here might be enough to get some points. And interestingly, it's a battle for the final point, by the way, between Rate Kilt for Red Archer and Zolt Zux for Stax. So Zux, who only got 1 point last season, and Rate Kilt, who I think has not scored points in a long while. Red Archer certainly haven't scored any points in over a year, because they've been out for over a year. So that could be very close. We also see Matthew Williams, while we've been watching that replay, has picked off Ruben Machete for 5th position and set a personal best fastest lap of the race.
And it's worth noting as well, if he was to score points at the first race of the season, that would perhaps mean more in terms of it would mean more to a driver than any other Grand Prix of the season. I'm amazed we've gone 49 laps without mentioning this, but all of the cars are dead even. And look at Ruben Machedi now, challenging Williams, who does fend him off. That's what I thought Fournier was going to do and then didn't. But Williams does fend off Ruben Machedi this time around. But yes, as I was saying, all of the cars absolutely even in their performance at this time of the year. One of the unique things that we have in GPVWC is that the teams and the team managers can spec into different parts of the car as the season goes on. We have a very unique R&D system that takes place throughout the year, and you end up with some teams having an advantage over the others. But in the first race of the year, that is just not the case. And that's one of the reasons that I love the Australian Grand Prix in particular. We're going to see a replay of Williams's defense of...
This is him passing Machedi.
Oh, he passed him. So this was 2 laps ago, I think. And he does go through on Ruben Machedi. So I'm sorry I didn't pick up on that as well. But Matthew Williams goes through into 5th position. Meanwhile, the fastest lap of the race has just been set by Dylan Fisher, who is
the softs.
A few seconds out of the points, but if he can get up into the points, and I can see him doing so in the next few laps. He's flying on those softs, and he's on the back now of Zeeuw Schukes. If he can get up into that top 15, then he will get 1 extra point on what he would otherwise be scoring.
Ooh, round the outside he goes at turn 3, and that surely is Zeeuw Schukes has to back out to avoid losing his front wing there. That's Fisher up to 16th now, and now Red Archer will start to get a bit worried because Fisher is going to eat into that 6-second gap in front of him. Oh, almost onto the gravel there. We saw exactly what happened to Jarl Tyne. Also setting a personal best lap of the race is Jeffrey Fournier, as we see Handgraf going around the outside of Schukes. So there we go, Handgraf had a horrible qualifying, recovering. So he's kept those hard tyres in very, very good condition, and Zeeuw Schukes really starting to struggle here on the mediums.
Yeah, and unfortunately I think that's the dream over for Schukes in terms of scoring points today, and therefore the Stax team as well. I've just been messaged by David Feidock, interestingly, former Super League champion himself, who's reminding me apparently there is no fastest lap this year. So I am a year out of date on that, and I do apologise. Feidock also messaged me earlier and said, "Tell everyone on stream I need a drive, lol." So we've got someone looking for a drive, and I tell you what, who better to have on your lineup than a former champion? I noticed that on the GPVWC Discord earlier on, actually, that David was fishing around for a drive. He didn't expect to be free on Thursdays this year, but he said something's come up, which means that now he is available on Thursdays. So there's your little bit of free advertisement, David. And who's to say we won't see a former champion returning to Super League soon, Ed?
Yeah, he did tell me about his personal circumstances change very much for the better, but he was annoyed because he'd sort of committed to not doing sim racing and then suddenly found out that he didn't have to do that anyway in the end as things happened, but he couldn't have known that at the time. So I think all the best wishes to the Feidock family, to be honest, because it was very good news from the sound of things. But nonetheless, David is a spectator at the moment, just like the rest of us, and he's been treated to a pretty exciting season open. We've seen Grankvist and Stevens change hands a couple of times for the lead, trying to outfox each other, but Grankvist, having pit later, come out ahead, is now just starting to pull away, isn't he? And they're both starting to gap Alex Lahoe in 3rd, who is keeping Frelick now about 2 seconds away at arm's length. Matthew Williams, though, relatively close to Simon Frelick. They've got the same tyre life here as well, and Ruben Machedi as well. So we could see a freeway fight for 4th here, as well as the fight for a couple of low positions, including, of course, that final point as Dylan Fisher gains another second on Rate Kilk. At this point, he's going to catch him before the end, but I think Red Archer are going to defend like crazy for their first chance of points in over a year.
Well, their first race in over a year, so of course they would. But yes.
I'm technically correct. That's the best kind of correct.
It is the best kind of correct. He does have Dylan Fisher on soft tyres. Catching him fast, though. But the laps are running out, look. Only 5 laps to go. Well, 6, I guess, if you include the one that we're on, which you should. In terms of the race lead, unfortunately, while it looked competitive for a while, the gap has rather extended. Jan Grankvist has had the measure of Tom Stevens. I'm still stuck on that P15 fight.
He's got the measure on Fisher as well. Again, you're correct, but it's kind of irrelevant.
Technically correct, the best kind. He's got the measure on Wopke Hoekstra. Anyway, Tom Stevens currently second. Alex Lahoe is third. Looks to be a lot closer in that fight for third, to be honest. I think that's the one that we've got to keep an eye on towards the end of this race. 1.6 seconds as it is, but one mistake could bring that bunch back together with Frelick, Williams, Machete, etc. Then, of course, you've got Carlos Martin, Mathieu Winnick, Thomas Rock, and Jeffrey Fournier. But remember, points in this series go down to P15. It's not like Formula 1. Even the top 15 score points. So Pansar, Schubert, Rural, Schluter, and Kilk all score points. And that's another mistake from Frelick. That was very similar to the one that cost him third place a few laps ago, where he dipped wheels into the gravel. And this time was able to rejoin without losing a position. But that could cost you a good 3 or 4 tenths of a second if you're not careful.
Yeah, I think the rears are starting to go on that TOP car, so yeah, Simon Frelick might be having to do a bit of a defensive job. Luckily, Rouve and Machete start to challenge Matthew Williams now as well, so Williams has got his hands full, might not be able to focus on the TOP in front of him as much as he would ideally want. Jeffrey Fournier continuing to set personal best laps of the race as he challenges Thomas Vax, so maybe this is what he was saving his tyres for. Problem is, Robin Pansar is going even faster, 2 tenths quicker or 10th quicker just behind them. So three-way fight for 9th, and Robin Pansar, he wants to get that second Adonis into the top 10 here. And Jeffrey Fournier, again, he's in a position where he can't really focus on Thomas Vack, because if he tries to make a move and it doesn't work out, then he could lose a position to Pansar as well. So yeah, it's more than the immediate battle in front of him to worry about. Meanwhile now Dylan Fisher within 2.9 seconds of Rate Kilk. So Kilk limiting the damage. He's only losing a second per lap, but that second is making the difference at the moment. Fisher is surely going to have a great chance here to get into the point. So the alternate strategy is working just as AKA Hero would have hoped it would.
Venturi in the YouTube chat says it's a joy to watch Jan in clean air. I mean, you would say that, wouldn't you? But yeah, Jan Grankvist leading this race. He and his teammate are both their team's only hope in this particular race, because of course Lalu and Tyan both crashed out in their own separate incidents, and so the top two are really gunning for not just themselves but their teams here. The early point in the championship is the best time to be winning these points, because that can really carry you through the rest of the season. You're effectively riding a wave of momentum, and we've seen that in the past where especially in the real world of racing, it's usually the driver who wins the first race of the season who goes on to win the championship. Obviously not always, it's not a science, and here in Super League there have been quite a few exceptions to that rule. Last year, of course, Owen McGorky won the first race and probably could have fought for the championship, but decided not to. Now I see you all commenting on my dog. I do apologise about that, unfortunately. There is nothing I can do about him at this point in time.
Well, we always said we could do with a third commentator, so I'm enjoying the contributions. Here comes Ruben Machete round the outside of Matthew Williams. Oh my goodness me, that was full commitment there. And Williams, it was lift off or be crashed into there almost. So Ruben Machete, what an absolutely spectacular job he did there to get up into 5th position now. And maybe he can even challenge Frelick for 4th here in these dying laps.
I do apologise to Machete that your fantastic overtake there was rather overshadowed by my dog. I seem to have set off Juho's dog. He says, "Oh, for goodness sake, my dog is barking now because another dog barks." Yeah, sorry about that. If anyone was wondering, his name is Harlan, and I am moving house in a few days. So unfortunately, he is staying with Mum, and this will be the last time he appears on a Super League broadcast. But there you go. Back to the actual race now, the thing that matters in the present moment. You see Ruben Machete having just got up into P5. Himself and Williams, I swear they've swapped about 3 or 4 times in this race so far. And with 3 laps remaining, including the one we're on now, there's still some time for it to swap back again if Williams still has some life left in him. And,
I'll tell you what, I've just noticed, Caitlin. Rate Kilk has actually caught Mark Schluter here. Schluter lapping about a 10th of a second slower, and now Dylan Fisher's within a second of Kilk as well. So it's a freeway battle for 14th. So Mark Schluter, 3rd in the points last season, has done a solid job to get up into 14th, but now having gone 18 laps on the harder tyre, he's at the mercy of Kilk, who's actually done 22 laps. He's done really well to keep Schluter in sight here, and now Fischer is going to put both of them under maximum pressure.
He is indeed. Right, Kilk currently in that last points-paying position, but he does not want to settle because he doubles his advantage in the championship if he goes around outside of Schluter here, which he does. Oh, he was... and Schluter spins. Schluter drops it, and I don't think there was contact. I think that was fair, and it looks as if Kilk just got the upper hand. So Kilk up to P14 has now been passed by Fischer. So Fischer gains 2 places. He's in 14th. They're side by side. Fischer's on the outside. Kilk in the red car, Fischer in the white and black car, who's on the inside line, and Kilk fends him off. Really good defensive driver from Riot Kilk, who should have the disadvantage on tyres at this point in time, unless Fischer's taken the most out of his tyres. They're now starting their penultimate lap of the race. Fischer takes another look. Quite an impressive battle here for the last 2 points of the championship points. And Kilk has it now from Fischer, and unfortunately Schluter's dropped to 16th.
Yeah, it was risky for Mark to sort of stick in there and try and run side by side with Kilk there. Lucky he actually kept it out of the wall as well. As now we see Fournier all over the back of Vac here, and the second road to Formula driver, the pole has got to defend to help his teammate in that team's championship. Around the outside with the DRS comes Geoffrey Fournier. That was a well-judged move. Knew he had the momentum coming out of the weight chicane there. And Fournier back into the top 9, roughly where he qualified, to be honest. So good recovery there as Jan Granqvist has started the final lap.
He has indeed. It's gone quickly, hasn't it? But we're going to see a replay of what just happened to Mark Schluter. He will be gutted with this. He's alongside Riot Kilk, and you'll see here, there's no contact on the exit. No contact with Kilk. He just loses it and then rejoins.
There was contact on entry, though.
Just a little bit, but I don't think that unsettled his car to the extent where it continued until later in the corner. He's now down to 18th. And like I said, he'll be gutted. Last year, he messaged me after just 2 races of the championship, saying he wasn't sure whether he wanted to continue or not, because he felt that he was a championship contender, but he'd retired from the first 2 races. And having seen him drop out of the points in the first race today, I'm sure he will be rather demotivated. And hopefully he can come back like he did last year. And that's a mistake from, well, Williams went for it on Machete, but appears to have made a mistake and dropped back. Meanwhile, out of the final corner, Jan Granqvist has had the measure of the whole field. It was close with Stevens for a while, but Granqvist has extended his streak, winning the first race of the 2025 championship, just as he did in 5 different Grand Prix last year. Jan Granqvist weaves about in celebration. He said to me earlier he thought he'd be near the front today. He didn't say he knew he would be at the very front, so he will be delighted. Jan Granqvist wins. Tom Stevens is second. Alex Lahoe is 3rd position. What a great drive for Road to Formula's debut. I actually think I'm going to say Alex Lahoe driver of the day today. Shimon Frelich is 4th. Then it's Ruben Machete, P5, so he fended off Matthew Williams on that last lap of the race. And something clearly happened between them. We're about to see a replay of what happened. So Williams is slipstreaming in up towards the weight chicane. This is his last chance. He knows he won't get another try. Goes around the outside and goes off. There we go. Goes onto the grass. And they did very well not to come together. And I think Williams,
somebody spun in the background as well, just after that.
Spin.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Was that someone being lapped, or was that somebody right behind them? We see Zolt Zux, I think, is retired on the final lap of the race. It must have been Zolt then.
Yeah, could it have been Jukes? Was he a lap down at the time? He's coming up to the weight
Frelich ahead of him, isn't it?
And there he goes, and he spins it around and off the road. He avoids the wall, but I think because it's so close to the end of the race, he's decided to call it a day. But we'll hold off on saying the full results until they come up on our screen, which will be shortly. I know that makes it neater for your highlights. So there you go. But what a drive that was for Jan Granqvist. And there we go. Jan Granqvist wins the first race of 2025. Tom Stevens is second. So we finish this season we start this season just as last season finished. Alex Lahoe is 3rd on Road to Formula Racing's debut. Then it's Shimon Frelich in 4th place. Ruben Machete 5th in Valley Esports' debut. Matthew Williams 6th. Then Carlos Martin P7. Macho Winnick P8. Geoffrey Fournier P9. Robin Pansar P10. P11 was Tomasz Vok, then Stefan Ruhl, Sven Schubert P13, then Dylan Fischer and Riot Kilk, who claims that final point, and just missing out were Stein Hangraf, Pascal Pollens, Mark Schluter, Daniel Brewer and Chris Shepherd, the top 20. Heiko Poon P21, then Istvan Xingel, Vincent Gutt, Matt Richards, Zolt Schukes, who dropped all the way down to 25th as a result of the spin, unfortunately, and then Wopke Hoekstra, so 2 drivers finishing the race a lap down, and the 3 retirements in completely separate accidents were Jarl Tyne, Jaco-Pekka Lalu and Alessandro Maggio, who of course initially set pole position before the penalty, and then of course ended up being the first DNF of the race. So those are your drivers, the 29 drivers in the order that they finished or didn't finish. And we've already got a rather excited driver waiting in the interview room, so I expect we'll be going to that screen in just a few moments' time. But Ed, what a race there. And do you have a driver of the day from that? Like I said, I would say Alex Lahoe.
As much as I am continually impressed by Alex Lahoe, I also sort of want to give it to Reuven because, again, he was called up at fairly short notice. I think also there's a great argument to be said that Jan should be driver of the day, and justifiably so, I think, because he didn't lose his head when he lost the lead. He outsmarted Tom Stevens, which you don't see too many people do too often. I think that was another brilliant, a 6th career win for Jan Grankvist. So he is starting to rank them up, isn't he? Which is brilliant to see. But yeah, I think Grankvist, Lahoe, Machete were all easily the standouts, but also honourable mention to Dylan Fischer for that late charge on the softs was really, really fun to watch. And he did get Rate Klilk on that final lap as well. I didn't want to interrupt because we were watching Grankvist cross the line essentially, so I didn't want to ruin the moment. But that was good to see as well.
That's okay. It is worth noting, of course, that all of the cars are equal in this first race of the championship. So if you had to give a driver of the day objectionably, it would have to be Jan Grankvist. But I'm saying Alex Lahoe because what a great drive there for Road to Formula Racing on the team's Super League debut, if I haven't mentioned that 5 times already. Okay, right, let's get some interviews in, shall we? Because we have our race winner with us today, Jan Grankvist. Hello, Jan, do you hear us?
Hello there, Caitlin.
So first of all, congratulations starting this season just as you ended the last one. Jan, you said to me earlier that you knew you'd be near the front of the field, but you were also interested in seeing what the other drivers had cooked up. Clearly not enough, eh?
Yeah, clearly. Well, I was excited just to see what would happen, so I was honestly really hard to recall what I was thinking about. I'm just thinking about the win right now, and that's all that matters.
Well, you got it, and you got it in a way that you had to fight for as well, passing Tom Stevens a couple of times and having to jump people in the pits and things like that. Talk us through just how the race went for you and some of the pivotal moments that led to you winning it.
Yeah, it was, well, I have to tell you a little story. Like, just as we started racing, it wasn't even on the formation lap, but I started getting cramps on my arm.
Oh, wow.
I don't know, is it called the forearm, between your elbow and your wrist?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so I started getting cramps on my forearm, and I had to last like 5 laps with like my muscle constantly twitching and hurting. That was crazy, but I managed to weather the storm with that one, and the rest of the race was then quite interesting as well, trying to outsmart Tom Stevens mostly, and I think that one, it was a nice battle, even if there wasn't so much side by side action, but it felt like a very fair and square. We gave it our best, and this was the outcome today, and I congratulate Tom Stevens as well as a great driver, Mim. And it was a great way to start the season.
And it feels like you've picked up from where you left off, to be honest. You and Tom Stevens going at it for the win. Do you see anyone else as challenging you guys this year?
Yeah, for sure. It's only the first race of the season, so I think a lot of people might have been, unsure what to do with the car. We were lucky enough to, get on the pace straight away. And well, the people working with us as well have been great this time. So, I've had my competition in hot lapping this time, so it kind of showed in quali. But Maggio actually put me to pole, but then he had the grid penalty, which was interesting. So, just massive props to the guys that we've been working with, the guys with the Reventon engines mainly. We've been practicing together, and I think altogether our group is definitely in a strong footing, at least for the start of the season. But as I said, it's still the first races, so the likes of Mark Schluter will definitely bounce back, let's say, in a few race time. I think they've definitely missed a huge portion, or something huge in the setup, because they did not look like their former selves.
Well, congratulations anyway. You did all that you needed to do. I'm going to hand over to Ed, because I know you'd like to get a few words in the interview, Ed. But congratulations, Jan. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this season goes from here. And I'm so glad you're here, to be honest. I know you said you might not even do this season. So seeing you on the grid is a delight, and long may that continue. Anyway, congratulations, and over to you, Ed.
Oh, thanks, Caitlin. And I echo completely what Caitlin has just said. It's great to have you, and even greater to have you at your best, Jan, as you tend to be these days. So you don't tend to do anything by half, and you certainly proved it today. I was just interested in that first stint. Obviously, I don't want to say inherited pole position, because it was obviously a penalty from Maggio, like you say. But you led at the start, Frelick got up to second, and then I was sort of in the back of my mind. I don't think I said anything during commentary because I wanted to hedge my bets, but I was expecting you to sort of pull clear, and it definitely felt like you were managing the tyres for a little bit later on or something, because the pack being so bunched together allowed Tom to sort of get up to second and then take the lead from you. Did you regret that at any point, not pulling a gap, or did you always think, nah, if I stay within DRS, I've got Tom covered here?
Well, that was actually the name of the game today, and I think it's been a trend for the past few years. The DRS, the advantage that it gives you in, fuel saving, tire management is just immense. So you either break the DRS or you don't. And if you don't, you just have to really manage and try to, play 4D chess with everyone else, trying to see if you can, somehow outsmart them and maybe get out, break the DRS from them, and then at that point it's a fair game to see who's faster. So there was definitely that in the first stint. I was testing the waters, seeing how quick I could go versus the rest, and obviously the rest were definitely quick enough to stay within DRS, so there was no hope of just dumping push to pass and getting away. So because obviously they'd have the advantage with just clicking the DRS button and saving even more push to pass than I could. So there was definitely that, and then I knew as soon as the second stint came in, that was where it was critical to try and follow Tom and maybe get into his DRS, and then see what happens after that. And you saw how it played over, so pretty happy with that one.
As you should be. So 6th career victory. You've gotten a lot in a very short period of time, Jan. Next up, Istanbul Park, Turkey. You excited about that one? Do you think that's going to be another happy Super Venturi hunting ground?
Well, it's going to be an interesting race again. Now some teams will have upgrades introduced as well, so there's that. But I'm looking forward to see if there are more people, able to bounce back from, being a bit further down the grid than they expected. But at the same time, the grid is insanely close together, so I think that's something that Carlos Martin has been warning us about, and it'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, it was 1.3 seconds, I think, from first to last in qualifying. And I think if you take out Vopke Hoekstra, who of course hasn't driven in a long while, it would have been just 1 second between the entire field. So not that I want to pick on poor Vopke, because he still did good to get to the end.
It's still 1 second.
That's true. That's true. But it's a fine margin, as you say. So anyway, congratulations, Jan. It was a really measured drive, and yet I can tell since winning the championship, it's sort of lifted a bit of a weight off your shoulders, and you're just having fun out there. And when you're having fun, it seems we are as well. So thanks for putting on a great show for us, and best of luck for Istanbul in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Okay then, so no sign of Tom Stevens anywhere yet. So how about we drag in the man, the myth, the one and only, the man who finished third today, and Caitlin's driver of the day, Alex Laho. So we are now joined, sorry to rudely drag you in without warning there, Alex, but
Hi.
by the one and only Alex Laho, who of course has just fresh off of taking his first Super League podium. Alex, you said you were going to win every race this season. I know you weren't quite able to live up to that promise today, but you gave it a very, very good go. You had some spectacular moments today. Despite being beaten by Simon Frelick at the first corner, you got your own back on him and then some with that fantastic free wide moment between yourself, Tyan, and Frelick. So that was probably the most exciting moment of your race. But it was really caused, wasn't it, by that slow pit stop, which I think we missed on stream.
Oh yeah, for sure. First of all, congrats to Jan and Tom, literally the goats. The first stint was quite boring. The hard stint, we're not gonna talk about it. Sleep. Should have brought my pillow with me. And the medium stint, Shimon was putting the pressure big time, and he beat me in the pits because I don't have a clutch pedal, so I have to use that button. But the thing is, I didn't want to stall the car, so I was spamming the button, and I lost time trying to exit. Just a very good race all in all. The qualifying could have been pole, but with cool and wood, you can make the world.
I can tell you were watching Super Lights because that's what happened to Joe Herlock, wasn't it? When he was leading the Super Lights race, came into pits and.
Oh yeah! Oh no! Poor Joe.
Oh, but anyway, he still had a good recovery though, but not quite to the podium like you've done today. Then, so talk us through that move. Frelick hits the gravel at turn 6, is going quite slowly, and then you have to make the decision very, very quickly to go to the outside. Luckily, Yaltine leaves the gap for you, but that was a really moment where you really had to think on your feet quite quickly. So that was just your instincts kicking in, surely, because you positioned that beautifully.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw Shimon go onto the gravel. I see him on the left-hand side of the track. I'm like, okay, he made a mistake. I'm close to Jarl as well, so I instantly go on the push to pass, DRS. Try to see if there's a gap. There is a gap on the outside. I go there. Double overtake. Done, dusted, bye. See you soon. And good race all in all, to be fair. I mean, it's very unlucky about the traffic, because we could keep up with Jan and Tom with the DRS train, but on pure pace we were probably like a tenth off. Yeah, there's work to do, but yeah.
It is very encouraging, isn't it? Yeah, and of course, as the reigning Super Lights champion, to immediately get on the Super League podium really shows the progress you've made in the last year or so. And it was great to see you and Frelick fighting each other, because both very, very top drivers finally getting the chance to show what you can do at the top level. And of course, a good day for Road to Formula, because Thomas still got P11, so that's a double top 11 for Road to Formula today, on a day where the second drivers at THR Super Venturi didn't score anything at all. So you've got to say, Teams Championship, there's every chance Road to Formula could replicate what they did for the last 2 seasons in Super Lights.
Well, thank you, Ed. And yeah, double points is always great. Well, I cannot win every race this season, but I will get podium every race. So
we're readjusting.
We have to change. Yeah.
This is what we in football they call moving the goalposts. So.
Yeah, exactly. Just moving the goalposts.
Well, we'll score points every race. Well, we'll score every other race.
We were trying not to DNF every race. Okay. Trying to start the race on the grid.
Okay, but anyway, next race, Istanbul Park, Turkey. Happy hunting to you, surely.
Oh no, not Turkey.
Okay. I'm worried about binning it at turn 8.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Well, 2 years ago in Academy, I qualified P13 without a rear wing in the Academy series. Turn 8. Oh my god, I was losing it like 3 times per second in turn 8. But yeah, that's off topic.
There's an easy way to avoid that from happening, and that's keep the rear wing on. So
yeah, I mean,
you did a very good job of that today. So on a wall, the track where the walls are much closer. So
kept it out of the walls. That's okay for me. I'm not hang out any much longer because there's more people to interview, and I don't want
That's
to
true.
waste their
Let's not keep
space.
Yeah, don't be greedy, Alex.
Yeah, this is not a
Anyway.
social club.
Thank you very much for talking to me, Alex. Congrats on the P3. Caitlin said put you as driver of the day, by the way, for what
Let's
it's
go.
worth. So congrats
Well,
for that. You got one of the commentators on your side, and the other one was still pretty impressed nonetheless. So I was glad to be commentating when you did the double move there. So
That's all right. Thank you guys, and see you soon. 2 weeks time, if not before.
yeah, well, good
Bye-bye.
luck in Istanbul. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, so as we let Alex Laho leave the commentary box, Tom Stevens has arrived and is waiting patiently to talk to us. Let's talk to our runner-up. So we're now joined by THR's Tom Stevens. So Tom, it was a really, really strong start to the race for you from 5th on the grid, wasn't it? Obviously, Jarl stalled, so there was a, a little bit of drama at the start behind you, but you were making up places. You picked off Alex Laho, Simon Frelick, and then Jan Grankvist for the lead. And it looked like you were sort of going to take control of this race. But then, in the middle stint, Jan was able to fight back, get back within DRS, and breeze back around the outside of you. So, in the end, a bit of frustration. It was the one that sort of got away today, wasn't it?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, I knew at the start it was really crucial to make the most of it and try to get up the order, because as soon as the pit stops would come, the gaps would just extend and it would be just way more difficult. And fortunately, the pace was solid in the opening stint, so I could work with that. And I just launched a couple of surprise attacks with my push to pass, and a few managed to stick. But yeah, it got a bit hairy out there at one point with Alex. I'm not really sure what happened, but luckily the car was still in the race. And yeah, I managed to get up to Jan, get into the lead. But then from then on, it was just managing the pace. And yeah, I got to say, top job from Jan there. He's just had insane pace in the final stint. It's really tricky to keep up. So yeah, really good job. And overall, solid job. And thanks to everyone in THR and FTR. A lot of effort went into this round, and I'm happy to finish it with a podium.
Yep, it was certainly a strong race nonetheless, even if you didn't quite have the pace at the end to beat Jan. It was a very spirited drive, and yeah, I feel a little bit for Jarl from a team perspective, because he had that crash while running in the top 5. So there was a good team result for THR that's gone begging, which has handed Super Venturi the early advantage. But I'm sure you and Jarl are going to fight back once again in Istanbul in 2 weeks' time, surely. I'd forgotten, by the way, about that move by Alex at the weight chicane, but you're right, it was very, very close where you made contact and just about survived.
Yeah, at one point I thought my wing was gone, but fortunately it was only my suspension that was a bit damaged, and it was manageable in the end, but it certainly didn't help. But yeah, I mean, it's a shame what happened to Jarl this race. I haven't really seen what happened, but we've got another 15 opportunities to get a good double result, so yeah, looking forward to it.
Excellent. And Istanbul Park will be next up. You excited for that one, Tom?
Yeah, I think it would be a good challenge. I haven't driven it before in GPV, but I gave it a go somewhere else last year, and
Oh, I remember.
yeah, it's a solid track. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to testing the upgrades and using them. So yeah.
Absolutely. So THR already trying to assert that early advantage as you seek that 3rd team's title in a row. But best of luck in that driver's hunt as well. It's certainly a long way to go yet in this season, and you did a very impressive job today, Tom. So thanks for talking to us. Well done on 2nd, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you very much.
So then, as we let Tom Stevens vacate the commentary box, who else is there to talk to us? We've got Simon Frelick, Ruben Machete, and maybe Alessandro Maggio, but I don't want to drag Maggio in if he's not willing to, not in a state to be talked to us, because obviously that was a very tough result for him after starting on provisionally on pole position before the penalty. So let's hear from Simon Frelick then, the man who just about held on to 4th place. So we're now joined by TOP Esports' very own Simon Frelick. So Simon, it was a very, very good start today, taking 2nd from Alex Laho at the first corner, but then it was a little bit of a trickier run for you, just holding on to 4th position in the end. And there was a moment where you got undercut by Jarl Tyne as well. Jarl made a mistake, and then suddenly, rather than overtaking Jarl, you saw Alex Laho breezing past both of you at the same time in a double move. So obviously it's a case of so near yet so far to the podium, but for a first proper Super League race as a sort of full-time TOP driver, you got to say that was a pretty strong showing.
Yeah, that was first of all, hi Ed, hi Caitlin. Yeah, that was a strong start and a good base to build momentum for the later races. I was not confident going into this race. I kind of went into quali expecting to qualify P12, to be honest, and yeah, in the end managed to get P4, started P3 because of Maggio's grid penalty, and yeah, there is potential. There was the race pace was similar to Jan and Tom, but it was just too many mistakes from my side. It's like most of the gap to the leaders for me is in mistakes I've made throughout the race. So that's something to learn for the future. Super League is the longest races in the Curry ladder. So I think, yeah, this race is a lot of positives, but also a lot of things to learn on. And yeah, I think the main focus will be on trying to be more consistent throughout the entire race length.
Yeah, certainly, because of course we forget, even though you've been doing GPV for a while, it is still early days yet for you in Super League. So of course, still plenty to learn, but a very, very clean race. Was there a bit of danger at the end from Matthew Williams and Ruben Machete? Because they seemed quite quick today in those closing stages. Maybe they'd kept the tyres alive quite long into the race. Were you at all worried about them, or did you think as long as they lap consistently, they can't get within DRS?
In the final laps, I was looking forward to Alex and not behind.
Probably the right mentality, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I was catching Alex, so I just didn't care what's happening behind me. The gap was staying pretty much the same, so I was just like, let's catch Alex. Let's try to catch Alex and try to get the podium. And I got close. I nearly got DRS going into the final lap. That could have helped setting up a move maybe into the fast chicane, but I just missed out by like 0.2, I think. And yeah, it was just putting in lap after lap trying to catch Alex. I guess that was enough to keep Matthew and Ruben behind me. But like I said, as soon as I saw that the gap was pretty much the same, or it was even increasing, I think, by the end. I had a car in front of me, and I saw that the gap was getting smaller lap by lap, just that tiny bit, and that motivated me throughout the last 10 laps.
Yeah, it's always fun when you're chasing someone. Gives you something to. It's like when you see horse racing where they've got the sort of blinders on at the side. They can't see at the side of them, they can only see in front of them. So I suppose racing drivers have a similar thing when they've got the helmet on. But anyway, congrats on the P4, Simon. Are you looking forward to Istanbul in 2 weeks' time for round 2?
I'm going to be honest, I haven't done much Istanbul in my time sim racing, but I think whenever I did do Istanbul, it always used to be a pretty good track for me, so I am looking forward to that one.
Oh, awesome. So, thank you very much for talking to us. Well done, the P4. Best of luck to you and TOP for the rest of the season, Simon. And yeah, impressive full-time debut today. Let's hope there's podiums to come in the future.
Thank you.
So then, as we let Simon Fredick leave, now's the time to talk to Valet Esports' Alessandro Maggio, the penultimate man we'll speak to tonight. Alessandro, welcome in to the commentary box. I know it's going to be disappointing for you today, isn't it? Because it started so well. There was that amazing qualifying lap, and even though you didn't get to start on pole, take nothing away from it, that was the final couple of sectors were absolutely immense. It was breathtaking to see how much speed you're carrying into the final couple of corners and somehow managing to stay on track. But of course, there was the penalty hanging over you from Shanghai last season, which is definitely almost a whole year ago as well. It's frustrating, of course, to have that carry over. But nonetheless, you started the race well. You were solidly in the mix. And then after the first pit stops, there was that moment at the weight chicane, turn 11 and 12, where you just lost it. And from then on, you were a passenger into the gravel. So obviously a day where you showed a lot of really, really strong pace, but sadly, it wasn't to be today, I guess. It was just really unlucky, and commiserations, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I have to be honest, I was expecting it in a way. It wasn't, anything unusual for me to do, but yeah, something
You're
unusual.
starting to sound like Scott Flack now, so pessimistic.
Something unusual that did happen was the pole lap. That I wasn't really expecting, to be honest, but I'm just...
Didn't sound like Jan was either.
But yeah, everybody else bottled, and I put in a decent lap together, and yeah, I got pole, which is weird to think about. But yeah, honestly, I was happy to start P6 because my plan was just to stay with the DRS train for the first stint. I didn't want to destroy my tires, but I did anyway, so it doesn't matter. And yeah, after the pit stop, I got caught up in a bit of an incident with several people. I think there was Robin, Jarl, and a few others in it that we literally bunched up in very little space in turn 3, and we all kind of started jumping for space. And I mean, there was some contact, but I didn't get any damage. Then on the lap after that, Carlos was exiting the pit lane, and I knew I had to get in front of him before the apex, otherwise I would have been pushed off. But I pushed myself off doing that, so he passed me, and then Ruben passed me as well, and Thomas Schwach caught up to me, and on the straight, going to the fast chicane, everything was fine. I didn't feel anything strange. I broke and literally just lost all control of the car. In all of the practice that I did, that never happened to me, so it was very bizarre and very weird. I kept looking at the replay for like 20 minutes before going back to watching the race because it was very, very strange and unusual, but here we are. I don't mind. It happens.
Yeah, when you're going into that high-speed chicane, strange things can happen. You're certainly not the only one that we saw fall foul of that today. I suppose the frustration is, if you'd started on pole, there's always going to be that thought that it could have been a different race, really. But as you say, there's still, without wanting to criticize you too much, I agree, there's still things to learn with the time management. But I've seen you in other series when you're at your best. Even on this track here in Melbourne, you start on pole and you build a gap, you can be unbeatable, Alex. So it's obviously, it wasn't quite, there was magic qualifying, but not quite a chance to put the magic to good use in the race today. Are you looking forward to Istanbul? Because obviously Reuven had a very, very strong drive in the other car today, so there's good team points on the table already, and you've shown that the pace is there, so surely Istanbul can be a better race result for you.
Hopefully I'll finish the race this time, but if I have to be honest, I don't really like Istanbul as a track, because as you've said, I still have to work on my tires, and Istanbul is not friendly with tires, so it's gonna be very, very hard. And I mean, I'll try to maximize whatever I can, but don't expect much from me.
Oh, don't worry, Christian Pascal won't be there to steal the win this time. So, and to be fair, everyone else is going to struggle on tires as well to an extent. It's just who deals with it, who deals with them in the best way, I guess. But anyway, that was really, really hard like today, Alessandro. But don't let anything anybody says dissuade you. You're still the magic man to me. And I've seen the folly of betting against you in the past, and you overcome massive deficits before in championships. So I still know you can turn things around. And as unbiased as I have to be in the commentary box, I'm definitely going to be cheering you on just a little bit, as much as I can get away with. As long as I'm cheering on the other teams an equal amount, I think it's
yeah. Oh, thank you, Ed. Thanks.
Yeah, anyway, commiserations, enjoy the break. I'm sure, congrats on the poll, and I'm sure we'll see you back to your best once again. Well, the next time I see you, I guess.
Yeah, thank you. See ya.
Right, last but very much not least, let's talk to the man who finished 5th today, Reuven Machete. So, Reuven joins us now in the commentary box. Congratulations, Reuven. Obviously, it was a fairly late call-up filling in for Sergio Fletcher, of course. But you really, after, Super League, you were supposed to do it last season, and it really didn't work out for you with all your technical issues. Today was really a good chance to put that behind you, and you had an amazing drive. That move on Matthew Williams near the end had me absolutely screaming and I had Caitlin's dog screaming as well, because I was convinced you were going to hit Matthew Williams. You turned in from the outside. It was so assertive, so aggressive, to the point that Matthew had no choice but to back out. And that really showed the confidence that you had today. Obviously, starting a little bit further back on the grid. I think it was like a 6th or 7th, wasn't it? Just behind where Matthew ended up. P9, okay, yeah. So you've really gained a lot of ground today. And that really showed. Obviously, we knew you'd always had the pace. You put some fantastic overtakes in the past, but it was really great to see you finally. Is that your first top 5 in Super League?
I mean, I finished in 2023 Canada top 5, but I got a penalty afterwards. This time I shouldn't get.
First one you get to keep. Yeah.
Yeah, first I want to keep, exactly.
So talk us through. Obviously, there was a little bit of chaos in action in front of you. Yaltine stalling at the start, and then you had a good fight back. You and Jarl were back and forth for the first couple of stints. And Jarl seemed to undercut his way ahead of you, and then he crashed on his own, it seems, just in front of Simon. So that really handed you a free position. But all the others you absolutely had to fight for every step of the way. And it was you and Matthew, of course. You couldn't shake Matthew for a lot of the race, and that was why you had to do the move at the end, I guess.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, I was surprised by my pace today, as I didn't have any practice on the medium tire. I didn't know how it would have been. I drove 1 lap in practice in the official server, so didn't know what was to come. But yeah, great pace. If I didn't bottom my quali lap with the final sector, I would have started P3, P4. And I had the pace to fight for the win, perhaps even, or to at least finish on the podium. This pace was insane today for the practice I did, and I'm super happy because this shows what I could have done in 2024 if I had any confidence in the car.
Well, speaking of which, then, is the focus on trying to get a seat in Super League if one opens up, or are you completely focused on Super Lights now? Because we believe Sergio is coming back for round 2 or 3, so there might not be too many more chances at Valet at least. But you certainly made a big impression on everybody today. I
mean, Remco's here. If I say no, as Super League would be my focus here, I think it would be pointing a gun to me.
Yeah.
But
I'd forgotten about that. Apologies.
But yeah, my main focus is still to win the title with Optimal, because it's the kind of my main project since 2023. Once I joined the team, it's still my goal to bring the team up, and I think with today's drive, I've shown that I have everything in me: the pace, the confidence, the awareness, the racecraft, to bring the team to the top. And I will definitely use my 4 races this year in Super League and hopefully score a podium.
That's brilliant to hear then. We look forward to seeing you in action again, and best of luck for both of your campaigns, Reuven, because you had a great showing today. It was great that you got the opportunity in the first place, but of course you had to make the most of it as well. And yeah, certainly there's going to be more to come, and let's hope to see it soon.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I wish you a good night and good ending to the stream.
Oh, thank you. As it happens, somebody else, I think, has just snuck into the interview room at the end, so we might be able to have a quick interview with Maciej Milnek, actually, from HRT then. But thank you very much for talking to us, Reuven, and we'll let you leave the commentary box.
Goodbye.
So we are now joined, finally, by HRT's Maciej Milnek, who I believe has just gotten an 8th place finish today. Maciej, we sort of noticed you having a few good fights, gaining a bit of ground in that fight for 6th position in the race. I think towards the latter stages, Carlos Martin got you, but you were able to get past Jeffrey Fournier, of course, who was running quite long, having pit early in the race. So a pretty good return for you after basically over a year away, essentially, if you don't count that substitute drive in 2023.
Yeah, I would need to get rid of a bit more rust than I grew. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the result overall after the return. I could have drove better because I made too many mistakes, and I might get a pen because I got a drive-through but got removed by race director, so I might lose this P8. But overall, yeah, not bad, at least for me.
No, not bad at all, and it is great to have you back because we missed having you on the grid message. So certainly to have a former race winner back and sort of getting back into the top 8 is really, really nice to see. So for you and HRT, how are you feeling about next round? My final question for you in Istanbul, of course.
I feel better than for Melbourne, definitely, because Melbourne is one of the least favorite tracks of mine. So I think I will be better in Istanbul, and I hope I will prove it in 2 weeks' time.
Oh, well, if you can get a P8 here, then and if Istanbul is a better track for you, then that certainly bodes well for you and HRT. So congratulations on starting the season in the points. Let's hope we see many more points finishes to come in the rest of the season. So thanks for talking to us, Message.
Yeah, thank you.
Right then, so with interviews concluded, let's invite Caitlin Penny back in and close the broadcast. Sorry I let Message in at the end, just thought I'd get a cheeky one in there. But yeah, some interesting thoughts from our competitors. Jan on top, but yeah, Maggio with that ominously quick pole lap, and then Lahoo, of course, impressing on his first sort of, him and Simon Frelick I thought were really, really strong today in their first debuts as full-time drivers.
Well, as you said, that's the end of the broadcast today. Thank you for doing those interviews, Ed. And of course, thank you to everyone that we did interview. We will be back in 2 weeks' time at the Turkish Grand Prix, as you mentioned. But keep your eyes peeled on the GPWC YouTube channel, because obviously we have the support categories before then. On Tuesday, we've got Formula Sprint 2. On Thursday, we've got Formula Sprint 1. And then, of course, Tuesday after that is Super Lights, and then there's often academy races that spring up last minute as well, so definitely keep your eyes out. And we've got plenty more GPVWC action coming for you in the next couple of weeks. Thank you to all of you who through to now. Thanks to Remco de Zeeuw, our broadcast director, who provided us with all of the sights and sounds and replays and the stream and everything like that. And of course, thank you to Ed Hunter, who's been doing so much hard work for season previews and all of that. And also join me in the commentary box today. So yeah, without further ado, I've been Caitlin Penny, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.